Hello, everybody. How are you all doing today? Welcome to, what is this, episode 8, 9, 8? I think it's episode 8 of Off the Raelz. That's actually crazy. Did you know, Akari, Starlight, I will fix saying how I say your name, that most podcasts statistically die after the 3rd episode. So we're double that right now. Yeah.
Nice.
It's kind of crazy.
It's funny because it's like you're able to get past the 3-episode rule in anime.
True. But to be fair, oh, am I muted? No, I'm not. Okay. Oh, I thought I was muted for a second. That would have been a great way to start off things. If I had more scuff than my guest, that would have been bad. But what's funny is it technically like did die after like 4 episodes, and then I just picked it up like 6 months later. It's fine. But everyone, today our guest is the wonderful Starlight Akari, who is a wonderful artist and the creator of our Habanero TTS chat pet, which you have all seen. And why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit, Starlight?
Hey, so as Raelz said, my name is Starlight Akari. I usually just go by Starlight, but you can call me either. I am a artist, VTuber, and celestial fox. I use my art to sort of grant people's wishes, and my main focus on streams is art, so I'm not really a variety streamer. I'm always making something. It's nice to meet you all.
We are glad to have you. I've wanted to have an artist on here for quite a long time, because as everyone should know at this point, VTubing and art are basically linked in any possible way you can do it, because without an artist there would be no VTubers. But I think a big part of that is VTubers also have like a weird relationship with artists compared to a lot of other content creators. And that's something that I really wanted to go over and talk today. So I'm really excited to have you on. Plus, we've known each other for a while. At least known of each other for a while, I would say.
For sure,
Actually,
for sure.
I'm trying to think of when was the first time because we've mostly talked on VTuber Senpai's server. That's definitely how we kind of have had interactions. I'm trying to think back. How far was that?
I know Thorn connected you to Senpai, and I'm trying to remember if I saw your work beforehand, and I feel like I did, but I just didn't know it was you at the time.
That is not an uncommon statement, because a lot of people have mentioned to me that they didn't know I was the cat.
I mean, okay, I've known you long enough to know that you're the cat. But I didn't like. I have seen your earliest tutorial videos, so I'm used to both of your forms, but I don't think we really started talking. I think I was more of just a viewer or observer in the beginning. Sounds
about right. I still, the whole Senpai story is still really funny. But what's funny is that has connected me to like you, to Thorn, to a couple other people in the community that have become, long-time associates, quote unquote, that I talk to a lot of the time. And it's led to something like this, because I could be like, haha, I know an artist who I can rope into and maybe peer pressure onto my show. But
well, I'm still happy to be here.
I don't think I had to do that much pressuring.
Oh, you're lucky that I had done an interview with one other person before, just so that I was like familiar with the general idea of it. Because if you had wanted me to go on an interview as my first, I think I would have been too nervous.
Oh, we're nice here. Don't need to be nervous. Chat, tell Starlight how much you love her, because you've seen her work. You know how good she is, and Habanero Chat Cat is amazing. Even if he's currently being worked on to do something crazy. Oh, I actually don't think I've told you about that.
I don't think you have.
So he has not been on stream for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
because he is part of a different project that I've been working on that will allow TTS on both ends of the scheme or stream. So Rayleigh will be answering the habanero TTS. So when chat says something, it'll come out of habanero. When the AI responds, it'll come out of Rayleigh. So
Interesting.
they can like
Okay.
have conversations with each other, which that's the ultimate in stream content is I don't have to do it. I can let you guys talk to each other. You can talk to the robot for me. But he's gonna make his comeback soon enough.
I'm excited to see that. That'll be interesting.
I'm also excited. But let's hop into a couple things here. Let's get some first initial questions out of the way, shall we?
Mm-hmm.
So, what made you start with art?
So I've been doing art, basically my whole life. It's always something that I have been drawn to. It's one of those things that very early on I was like, my life is going to be dedicated to art. My career will be art in some form. So I can't say something like, oh, I just started a few years ago. Like I've always been doing art. The direction I've been doing art has changed throughout the years. I've been subject to the very common art teachers who say, "Don't you dare draw anime," "Don't you dare draw fun things," right? Like, we start when we're young and we're drawing the things we like, and then once you decide that you want to make this a career, you want to go professional, then you have to start learning things like fundamentals and perspective, all the different theories, and then suddenly all the fun things that you like doing suddenly aren't really accepted anymore. Um, but I've sort of been throughout the years shifting my styles and trying to find loopholes and eventually getting to the point now where because of VTubing, I can go back to doing all the fun, cute things.
Nice, nice. See the talk about switching to fundamentals. That's where I dropped out.
It's like, oh, you wanna make this real? You wanna treat this seriously? You're gonna be on stick figures? Okay, now it's work.
Yeah, yeah. I actually was serious enough at one point in time that so there's a local art college here that's like I'm not going to say it's fantastic, but it was small enough that like they really couldn't afford to turn away anyone. So if you wanted to just like audit classes and stuff, you could, which if you're doing art, I'm going to keep it real. I don't know if you really need a degree. Like I feel like art is one of those professions where you're either good enough and people can see it or you're not. It's kind of like content in that matter of like your skill is really the only thing that matters at the end of the day.
Yeah, I
But
mean that's what they say. Like it doesn't matter if you have the degrees on your resume. Like your portfolio is what's gonna determine everything.
yeah. But I went there for several months doing a lot of like lifestyle draw. I actually got kind of okay at it, like drawing figures and stuff. But like, man, that's also when I decided I was like, no, I was seeing enough progress with what I could do, and I know my chat is used to my abomination drawings, which I love, by the way. Those will never go away. But that really settled in of like, man, I could be good at this, but I don't want to put in the time.
Did you at least like enjoy it? Because I mean, there's nothing wrong with keeping it as a hobby. Just
I
having
did
fun
enjoy
working.
it. I did enjoy it. And like I have a few of the things that I've done like hung up in my room because I'm like kind of proud of them. I'm just kind of looking around now. Okay, I have more hung up than I thought I did. But it was fun, but not in the I'm sure you've been in this position many times, but I was in the I know if I take the time I can make this really good, but I can also see so many of the imperfection that it's driving me insane.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like,
I mean, I think there's some pieces that you're just like, nope, this is not gonna be one.
yep. Mind doing a live one for Akari to criticize?
Say them. Oh my god.
Maybe towards the end of the stream, Zathan, we'll get Starlight to appraise my beautiful artistic skill.
Oh no.
But piggybacking off of like how you wanted to like become an artist, what led you to shift that into like content creation? Because that's a whole other creative endeavor that is just as crazy.
Yeah. So I think that I sort of went in a typical digital artist avenue, right? Like I knew I wanted to be doing art in some form, and at some point early on, I discovered DeviantArt, like many other artists do. I think I discovered it through finding like Pokemon images or something. Uh, Wanted to join DeviantArt, learned that digital art was a thing, that you didn't just have to scan and upload stuff. Started looking more into that, started getting more into what kind of tablets are available. Back then, you pretty much could only buy a Wacom. Um,
That is the truth.
I there were no iPads. There was no Huion. There was no XP Pen. It was basically Wacom or nothing. And I got like the cheapest one at the time. I think it was called a Bamboo Fun, and I
Oh,
learned
I
about
remember those.
I learned about Paint Tool Sai through DeviantArt. There were a bunch of artists that I followed who all use that. Um, and then once you're on there for a bit, you start exploring the different avenues, and then I think for most artists, you go from DeviantArt to Instagram, right? Because it was the main phone app for artists. I'm not really sure of the technical evolution on the grander scale. I'm just sort of thinking about very quickly how I think it probably went for me. Um, and then I think I don't remember if this was when this connection happened, but at some point I was moving away from Instagram and I needed to do some kind of work after art school, and I had a company job for a while, and then after that I was thinking, well, where am I going to go from here? And I decided that I really wanted to go into surface pattern design because my style is very cutesy. And again, this was sort of like, well, you can't do anime, but you can do cute things like children's books or stuff. And I had a friend who who was saying like, hey, maybe you should look into greeting cards, wrapping paper, fabric printing, everything. So that took me in a whole direction because I was like, well, that's pretty much the main thing I can do that involves still being allowed to make cute art. Um, and then I realized how competitive it was and how they were teaching like many online classes how to be a surface pattern designer. And at the time I had a bunch of friends who were trying to get me to chat with them a lot. And my thought was, okay, I don't really have time to be constantly messaging my friends for hours like I used to be able to when I was in when I was a student, where we had more free time that you realize after the fact. So what if I go back to doing live stream? Oh, that was the other thing. On DeviantArt, I learned about live streaming. And back then, I think everyone just used something called livestream.com. I don't even know if that's still around anymore. But everyone just live streamed, and they basically just, screen shared the art program. No models, no webcams, no nothing. And then I was like, I want to do that again with the surface pattern art. So I started exploring that a bit, and that got me into a whole rabbit hole of how do I go back into streaming. And by that time, livestream.com wasn't a thing. And I was still very, very late on the Twitch and YouTube side of things. And then I think it was VTuber Senpai's webcam video where it was like, how do I get started with this? And I don't really know where the timeline or the connection is, but I wanted to do streaming, and then very quickly into researching streaming, I figured out VTubing, and I've always been presenting myself as a fox online, so it felt like a very natural transition. And then I was like, okay, this is a whole new world known as like content creation, being a content creator. And then that's what kind of got me down the rabbit hole. So I originally just wanted to do things um for greeting cards and wrapping paper. And then I discovered VTubing as a result of that.
That is quite the journey.
Sorry if that was a bit long-winded. I was
No,
just
you're
trying to
good.
remember.
You're good. I
Just
always
remember,
love.
like, how did that tumble together? Because I remember it happened very quickly. It was like each day I would discover something new, and each week I felt like I was having a new epiphany in art. Like, what can I do with this? What makes this stand out? What makes this so interesting? And I remember, um, with surface pattern design, it's generally an older audience, right? It's usually like older women doing watercolors of flowers. And I was like, I'm gonna be the cool, innovative artist who presents themselves as a fox instead of a person, and it's gonna be like the fox sells you stickers and greeting cards and stuff.
It's funny because you started off as a fox. I definitely did not start off as a cat.
Honestly, we kind of like reversed roles if I think about it, right?
True, because you used to be full on fox. I
Yeah.
used to be full on human, and now you kind of more of the hybrid approach, but definitely leaning heavier into the human aesthetic. And
Well,
I'm
I definitely like the
literally just
fox
cat.
part is still not gone. I still consider it a part of me. But the human side is more because I think it's more easily digestible for VTubers, right? Because like I think any VTuber is cool with like a cute four-legged feral cat. When I was first starting VTubing, furry VTubers were not really a thing. So I thought it was like not as appealing to have like the full furry anthro box showing up drawing anime girls.
True. I feel like there's been a lot more of them to come out recently.
Oh, definitely, yeah. It was funny to me because I was thinking, why are more furries not doing this? And they were all focused on VR chat. But now I think a pretty large amount have actually gone into like real VTubing streaming. But it definitely wasn't like that in the beginning. I was one of the very few furries who was actually trying to do like live stream content and not just doing things in VR chat.
You know what's funny though is I actually this is actually something I saw a thread about earlier this week was furries and their relationship to how far they pushed like certain types of technology. Like
Oh
and
yeah.
VR chat is definitely one of those that is kind of built off of the backs of furries, which is it's a funny statement to say, but when you realize that like some of the stuff they've been doing in VR chat is just now making its way into like regular VTubing models, it's kind of insane to think about.
Furries are very innovative, and there's kind of this funny joke within the community. There's a picture of a bunch of um fursuiters on a plane on an airline. Like they'd rented out the whole plane so that they could go to a convention. And one of the comments said, I really hope that plane has a safe landing because that's in the entire US IT department right there.
That's pretty funny, actually. It's so true though. Like when I was first getting started with 3D stuff, there were a couple of friends who were into VR chat that were furries that helped like teach me some of the like coding and programming stuff behind it to get them to work correctly. So
Yeah.
it's just kind of funny. That I
Oh,
feel
also,
like. Sorry, go ahead.
sorry. Zathan brings up a good point with Second Life, because, like, furries were also very, very innovative there in the beginning, like, before VR chat, because they kept trying to push how far the modeling and coding went in that game.
I definitely believe it. I've seen some of the stuff that friends have done in VR chat, and it blow like it makes me sit there like I didn't even know you could do this in this game. Like they're building entire worlds of just weird random tech stuff, and I'm just like, how did you figure this out? It's like, well, I needed to figure out how to do this when I was animating a tail joint on my model, and I was like, wait, how did building design come from what? Like it's so funny.
Yeah.
But I am interested in seeing more furry artists and furry VTubers, mostly because getting a cat made in the beginning was a nightmare.
Oh, I'm sure.
Like I actually was looking at a lot of furry artists in the beginning to try and like, because like if I want a literal cat, it's amazing how many people just will not draw what they, or even like think about drawing what they are uncomfortable with, which is a topic we'll get into a little bit later, because I definitely want to hear your thoughts about that.
Yeah, I have my opinions about that for sure. It's funny because I'm picturing like if you did find a furry artist, we'd probably be seeing like Warrior Cat's Raelz right now.
That's yeah, probably something like that. Hey, don't, Warrior Cats are great, okay? Those were like my...
No, nothing against it. It's just like you can tell, you know? You've seen those things where it's like you can tell which artist has red Warrior Cats?
Oh yeah, that is so... oh, that... I haven't ever really thought about that, but it's the most true thing I think I've heard like anyone who's been on this podcast say is if you, okay, for those of you who don't know, back up. For those of you who don't know, Warrior Cats is a series that follows around like actual cats, but they've got like a whole tribal thing going on and mystic magic-y sort of stuff going on. But you can identify literally anyone who has ever read those books by how they draw cats. It is the most like, I don't know how to describe it, but if you, hold on, I'm going to grab a picture of one of the Warrior Cats books and put it on screen. This is a tangent we're going on now. Because it is the most true thing I have ever seen. So, okay, here's just a random cover. I think it's actually only part of a cover. But if you ever see cats that have like this specific type of like look, that is Warrior Cats. That is everyone. And you know what's really funny is I feel like every cat related like actual cat related VTuber I've ever come across has also been into Warrior Cats. Because do you know Miss Jackie?
Yeah.
She is, I have a sneaking suspicion. I haven't confirmed this because I've never talked to her, but I think I actually knew her from a Warrior Cats forum. Because she's like super into it. I think she's more into it than I was, which is saying something, because I was pretty into it. I have no regrets.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to send you a meme later because someone illustrated the meme that we're basically talking about, and it was like ask someone to draw a cat and then you'll know, and it has like the two side by side. I'll have to send that to you if I can find it.
Will, don't you dare question how far I read. I own all the books. They're on my shelf right now. Look, there are some fandoms in my life that I like to keep on the down low, but Warrior Cats, no, that's awesome. I don't care. I freaking love that one. Don't question me ever again about them. Sorry, I like the Warrior Cats series. Also, the website game was awesome.
Yeah.
But it is really funny that you can tell who's at least been a part of that fandom for any amount of time.
Oh yeah. I'm
But
literally learning how to draw cats because of it.
it's a great series. And it's one of those iceberg communities where, like, if you look, they don't exist to anyone. But as soon as you find one thing and click on it, it's kind of like VTubers. Of all of a sudden, there's
Yeah.
this like massive, massive community of people. Especially the thing that's really crazy to me is about how many people are into like the map, the multi animator project community that surrounds Warrior Cats
Yeah.
specifically. Like, why?
It's
It's more than
It's
any
so
other one
funny.
I've seen. It's like it's their identifying trait. It's crazy. Is it a comic or
Yeah,
manga?
no,
No, it's
like,
a
I'll
light novel series.
come across a YouTube channel and I'll be like, oh my gosh, they have so many subscribers. How did they do that? Warrior Cats animations. Every time.
It's fascinating to me. And like it's not I've seen multi animator projects before, like I'm pretty sure most people have. But like the Warrior Cats ones are like you get from seconds 1 to 3 of a 5-minute song. It's like, how did you find 70 other people to be a part of this project? Like, where did you guys come from? How are there so many?
In the forums that you were talking to Miss Jackie in, apparently.
Oh man, good old Warrior Cats forums. Those, oh man, those were the days.
Sorry to get you on that tangent by accident.
Oh no. We love tangents around here. You've read dozens upon dozens of those books, never interacted with the wider community. You know, that I think that's what's the interesting thing. Okay, this might be a little bit of a hot topic, but I kind of like that there are communities that are like super, some communities, because not all of them are like this, but there's a lot of communities kind of like the SCP community, which I have very recently been introduced to, or like the Warrior Cats communities, where like they're super hardcore, but they stay in their bubble. And I really like that because that means that if you get into it, there's a lot of stuff there, but it's not being shoved down your throat by every person you meet that just happens to be like a member of one of those sub communities. It's weird, but I really enjoy that because it lets you get into something as much as you want to. But I don't know. Sorry, that was a side tangent. But yeah, there's a lot of the Warrior Cats community is bigger than you would expect. A lot bigger. But we got a little off topic. Also, thank you for becoming a tutor, Angara. I really appreciate it. But to kind of get us a little bit back on, man, I don't even remember what we were talking about before that tangent. I got so excited about that one. But I think we were
one
talking.
Sentence, it's all it took.
Yeah, once. I mean, sometimes it's one word. That's all it takes to derail me.
I think I was talking about like furry technology, and then you were talking about looking at other artists with art styles.
Oh yeah, so that actually is a decent bridge into one of the main topics that I really want to talk about is, so you started in art, you discovered VTubing. Obviously, art is the primary engine behind VTubing. I think most people would agree that the quality of the artist who's making your model can have a very direct amount of influence on like a VTuber's career. I know that's definitely true for me because I use the same artists all the time, but especially when you're first getting started, getting your artist model made. I just wanted to know, like, how has you being an artist impacted your view of like VTubing in general? Because again, you kind of have the power to create whatever kind of VTuber you want.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, I do think that there's like this inextricable link where as you were saying before, one can't exist without the other, which is really interesting to me. I think that art and VTubing kind of shows me like how wide the spectrum is of VTubers. You know, there's some people who just want to try it out, and they'll use like VRoid Studio if they really like it.
Uh-oh. No, Starlight, come back! Uh-oh.
Come to life.
Oh. Are you back?
Okay, there we go.
Okay.
Not sure what happened there.
You don't worry, you just had to blip out of existence for a second there.
Yeah, I'm a spirit, that's normal. But yeah, like I was saying, they might start with something simpler, see if they like to get into it, and then they might go with a more high quality 3D, live 2D, high quality PNG. They might start with PNG. But I think overall, what I like the most about this link is the VTuber community, in a general sense, I would say, definitely respects artists more than in most other fields. And I do think that they're, you know, not trying to go back to the furry thing too much, but there is a lot of similarities between, like, the furry community needing artists and the VTuber community needing artists, and them just having, like, this unbreakable bond, basically, between what they need and the artists that they work with. And for me, like, when I work with clients, I really like creating something very, very personal. I really like getting into what it is they need, why they need it, and if I can sort of pull out a lot of the deeper reasonings, like how does this impact what you want to do, how you want to portray yourself, your brand, all of those kind of things. And I like having those relationships where I feel like I get to work closer with people, in VTubing specifically, than you would just being a layout artist for comic books, or, you know, doing some freelance work for a larger entity. I really like the connection that VTubing has.
I can definitely understand that. I know I have a pretty strong connection with the people that I end up commissioning, because I do rely on them pretty heavily for a lot of things. But it's also just so interesting to see the artist being the, like, it's joked about on a lot of channels and things, like even on YouTube, that like artists are the backbone of a lot of things. But like I think VTubing just has that, it's literally the backbone. Like you could not have VTubing without artists.
It's like for artists who do stream assets before VTubing, it was like, you know, yeah, I want emotes, yeah, I want overlays, yeah, I want cool borders, and I want my chat to think that my setup is really cool. And then with VTubers, it's like, I need you to help me bring this this story, this meaning that I have to life. I think that that's one of the reasons why I really like seeing a lot of people who do lore connections. That's one of the reasons I admire you doing the lore work, for instance, is that there's these really special narratives you can tell. And for me, like my sort of lore brand identity, whatever you would have, is the idea of you know, wish crafting or wish granting. Like I genuinely want to bring this fantastic concept into your reality, and that's what I usually try to hold on to with my own work.
You put it quite beautifully, but shut up, Will. Will is reference. Speaking of bringing people's like wishes and lives to fulfillment, Will, our lovely creator behind and person who saved me in a pickle, who is the designer of my book. That is exactly how I approach them, is I need you to draw a magical book with different colored stones. And I don't remember the really bad mock-up I gave you, but it was pretty bad. Oh, gosh. but oh, and also the artist behind Ray Leach, wonderful work on that. But I really like that your aesthetic is bringing people's wishes true, because it might, from from my end, the people who can't draw very well, when you give an artist something and they come back with not even just something better than what you like, something that you wanted, but like literally like the best thing that you could have hoped for, it's like, it's crazy. You're just like, holy hell, this is actually the most beautiful thing ever. I've been moved many times by the artists I've worked with, of like when I on a couple ends, like when you did Chat Cat for us, you got like the exact look that I wanted based off of very rudimentary things. When I got Nick Jelly to do my startup screen, when Will's done my like Ray Leach and my book, and even when like Swody has done like the literal logo for this show, like you've all taken a concept that I had and brought it life, and that is so unbelievably awesome to see.
Yeah,
oh, and I gotta
that's
shout out
like-
Cinnamon Moon, who does all the artwork for the music stuff too, because they definitely do work. But it's from my perspective, with like working with artists, is the better that bond between an artist and like the content creator VTuber becomes, the drastically better things become over time. And
yeah.
because I've seen a lot of people who commission all over the place. Like they'll find someone whose style they want, they'll get something done in that style, and then they'll never get it done again. Admittedly, I've done that too. But like, the longer I've done things, the more I want to build like rapport with artists who I've liked their work from the beginning, because generally, if you keep working with them, they get even better at doing the thing that, like, you're understanding what your vision of how things want to go is.
Yeah, for sure. Like I have one client who I work with a fair bit, Sea Hero. He likes to commission a lot of very narrative pieces. Lots of storytelling goes on in them. They usually have like a wide variety of characters and events going on. I know that you've actually been in a piece or two from there. Um, and it's interesting to work with someone and sort of see how their own visions evolve along with like your skill set and getting to know them better. Like I'm at the point now where I've worked with him enough that I kind of have a vision for how he wants himself portrayed, how he wants characters interacting with each other, amount of work in the backgrounds and so on. And there's definitely something there where when you have a repeat client, it's very interesting in the terms of like I can sort of better pick out your vibe, and I feel more comfortable because I know that you're not a wild card, right?
Yeah.
I think that that's like a big thing.
And that goes,
I know that you're dependable. I know that we're good on communication. I know that I'm not gonna have to like track you down. There's definitely sort of a relief working with the same person.
yeah, that definitely goes both ways. Cause like,
Oh, I'm sure, yeah. Like once you've found an artist that you can depend on, like you were saying for your album covers, it's like I know that this person will be consistent. I know that my album covers will all look like they're part of a collection, and I know that I can depend on them.
Yep, poor Cinnamon Moon. They know that when I say, "Hey, I have a project for you," they're about to get the worst MS Paint they've ever seen, but somehow managed to take my worst idea. And I give them a couple reference. I'm not a total monster, but I give them my really crappy blocked up MS Paint image and be like, I want this, and I want you want to see the, okay, I will put the last MS Paint I get. Well, I can't do that one because that one's not out yet. Oh
You know
god.
what's funny about the MS Paint thing is a lot of clients will apologize and be like, "Oh, I only have this thing in MS Paint," or like the one of the recent commissions I did, I was working from like a pencil sketch on like a folded piece of paper, and they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry, this is all I have," blah blah blah, and it's like, no, you don't understand. This helps so much. I mean, like, I know you're saying, "Oh, I'm only using MS Paint," but it's so much better than just not having anything. Like the MS Paint drawings really shouldn't be put down as much as they are. Like even this. I'm serious. Like library background, what does this say?
Magic sparkles.
See, I can get a vision of this because I have an idea of like the perspective you would want, the size you would want. I mean, obviously, that's not my work, that's Sun and Moon's, but I think people don't give themselves enough credit with how valuable the MS Paint drawings are.
I unironically, I do understand like why they are like so valuable, because I'm a very visual person. Like if I can't like write it down or have like a sketch of it, it's incredibly difficult for me to try and explain something to people. It's like back when I was even just doing like my educational streams, that's why I would write things down a lot, is because that was more for me than for you guys. Is if I have something written down and can see it, it's, it's constantly in my brain.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
this is actually a great kind of segue into one of the big topics I really wanted to talk about today. Is because from your perspective as an artist, from my perspective as a commissioner, what can commissioners do to make your life so much easier?
So it does depend on every artist because there are artists who sort of have their own ways about doing some things. There are some artists who are very, very hands off in the sense of like, I only want to focus on artistic liberty. I want to do it in my vision, in my style, in my direction, and if you don't want it that way, then look for somebody else because I'm very set in the way I do things. For me personally, I'm very much with send me the MS Paint drawings, send me the sketches, send me the mood boards, send me the Pinterest links, send me the paragraphs of stories, send me whatever you need so that I can be sure that I am meeting your vision. Like, the more things you can send for someone like me, the better. I know there's a lot of people who are like, I don't want to overwhelm my artist with a bunch of things. And then I'll also see artists on the flip side making commissioners nervous by posting things on Twitter with like, please don't send me an entire novel about your idea. And I think it scares people into thinking that they're overwhelming the artist or sending too many things. Like, please don't actually send a full novel. I won't have the time to read the work and get your work done. But I think that, like,
Well,
if you can get long paragraphs and then do a version of it that is very simplified, so sort of having, like, your big story idea and then a bullet pointed idea at the same time, if you do both of those, then I can kind of get your main overarching concept and then any extra details that I might need. For me, writing is probably the hardest because, again, like you were saying, we're both more visual. And then in terms of reference images, pile them on me, drown me in reference images. I do it with my own work, even when I'm just doing personal stuff. I am constantly using references from anything from photos to my art inspirations to previous things I've done. I think that's the main thing. But again, it's really different for every artist, so you kind of have to get a feel for what they want. For me, I say the more references, the better. And I'll even, like, if I'm doing character design for somebody and I want to really make sure that I'm nailing what they want, I also want them to feel like they are part of the process, right? I don't want it to be totally hands off. I want this to sort of be like a dance between artist and client. And I will actually ask them, hey, I would like you to make a mood board. Yes, you are commissioning me to do the design, and I'll make a mood board if you want to. but I would like to integrate you into the process, and I want you to go on Pinterest, and I want you to be finding some photos of what really inspires you, what you really like, what direction you really want things to go in. And if they say, like, I really don't know how to do that, then I'm fine doing it for them. But I like doing it so that they can feel that they are part of the process.
I definitely think that that is the way to go. And in general, I think you should always err from the commissioner side of things on sending more information than less information.
Sure, yeah, for sure. And the other thing is, like, it's more annoying to have to go back for clarification than it is to just get more things thrown at you. And I think another thing that does help is if you have priorities on some things and others. Like, if you just send 50 images and say, okay, have fun, that's gonna be a little tricky if they're really different from each other and you don't really know which direction you want to go to. So sort of prioritizing it or like tier listing your concept is definitely helpful too.
You know, I actually don't think I've ever have I shown the Raelz Bible, like, initial document that
The
I
pitch
sent.
Bible?
Well, so when I commissioned Will to do the art for me, I'd spent a decent amount of time putting together, like, a pitch Bible would be the right way of saying it, but the original, like, this is like where we started from. And I think I don't think I've shown this. I've shown the original version, but I don't think I've ever shown this version on stream. Like what
It became after.
Well, so because Raelz has had two pitch Bibles. One was when, like, from 2 years ago, when I originally talked to an artist and got an initial sketch, and, like, so the vibe was similar, but over the last, over about a year and a half, the concept of Raelz changed just a little bit. And I updated it to try and be as specific as I was capable of. And I'm really curious, Starlight, to get your thoughts on this version, and if this is kind of like what you were describing to make people's lives easier. Because one of the big objects, and I told you this before stream, is I do want to make artists' lives a little bit easier. And this is information that I really wish that I was familiar with when I was first starting out, like, commissioning people. I feel like I've got a lot better at it, but this is the original, or the new list for Raelz. And I was curious if, like, stuff like this is total, like, obviously it worked out well for me and Raelz, but
yeah,
like, this took me about 2 hours to throw together. Now there's a lot more prep work behind it, but I feel like that this is, so to start with, here's a picture of a literal leech. Hey, look, she is a leech. It was important. Okay. And she's a red leech.
It got the vibe you needed, yeah.
Like, the entire point was she was based off of the giant red African leech. That's like the whole beginning concept. The only problem I had with this was the glaring white background. Yes, okay, look. Yes, that was probably not quite the the way to go for. But
yeah, most people don't know how to, like, aesthetically put together the references, so.
Yeah.
You know what would be really funny? If someday I got a client who, like, sent me everything in a PowerPoint presentation. I'm just thinking in terms of, like, making things look better.
Genuine question, why that species of leech in particular? Because it's the biggest red one. That was where that thought process began in Starvessa.
Did you know from the beginning that you wanted to go with a red theme?
No, but as I was looking, you can actually see in that bottom left-hand corner where I have the very important that the final design is not mistaken for this. I'm not trying to copy it. I knew it couldn't be black.
Right.
Because there are, surprise, there are very few leech characters that exist. So one of the biggest things is making sure that I don't accidentally in any way copy aspects of people's designs.
Yeah.
Like I'm
really...
also of the opinion that by nature some designs will share some cross things. Like a cat girl is a cat girl. You cannot change the ear portion of a cat girl. You can make the ears look a little bit different, but they will always be there. Right. So like there are certain aspects of design, like her being a leech, that's not copying, that's literally just an intrinsic piece of the design. But I did know that making her be a black leech was not, like, it probably wouldn't be able to be something I could move forward with. So
that's what most people think of, so that makes sense.
So I googled leeches and found an awesome big red one, and I was like, because the story behind this is someone was calling me Niji Sanji's biggest leech, and I thought that was really funny to go with the biggest leech in the world, and it was red. It was really, really funny.
So it's just like that perfectly worked out, basically.
Yeah, but like this, I just brought this up as like kind of an example of the things that you were talking about. That
So what I really like about this sheet is the fact that you have callouts, because a lot of times I will just get, thrown a bunch of images, and then I'll get an accompanying text box, and then it's kind of hard to match things together. Like, okay, you gave me this entire novel and you gave me a lot of these images, but like I was saying before with the hierarchy, which things should I be paying more attention to? So the callouts are huge, and then I think you also have a point in the bottom middle where you specifically call out like important details. I think that is very, very good. I wish that more people did that.
This also accompanied a mini novel as I'm looking at our messages, but I think having both is what really helped like get this design off the ground. And the thing I think is really important to think about, like if you're on the commissioner side of things, is you've been thinking about this idea for a long time. Like if you're at the point where you're trying to commission an art piece, you've probably been thinking about it for a long time. The artist is just
basically.
The artist is just hearing about this, like a lot of the times. Like that you need to keep in mind that while you have put more time and effort and thought into this than like any other person, your artist has not. They literally didn't know this. Most likely they probably didn't know this idea existed until you told them the first time. They are not going to be on the same level. And Will actually says the important details are so good because I forgot details and sometimes I could just check this. I would invite anyone who is commissioning something to make a list of what are your make or breaks for an image. Like, I personally really like letting artists do their thing. Because me not being a super great one is you're probably going to create something better than if I told you every little thing. I am, however, going to tell you the things that I need to have on there. Past that, as long as you hit my checklist, you're great. Like, go wild. I think even when you were doing Chat Cat for me, there were only a couple things that I was like, this, and this.
Yeah.
The rest was like, go for it.
My main thing for Chat Cat was making sure I got the markings right. Like, that's what I really wanted to focus on. And then I know the rest I was like, okay, I know that you want generally these kind of outfits, generally this kind of vibe. And I think I threw some things at you when I'm like, oh, this might be a fun idea if you're up for it.
Yeah. And I actually know most of the artists I've worked with have done that as well.
Yeah. I think that
Um,
what you're saying makes a lot of sense. And another point that I also want to add when I was saying, more detail is helpful, drown me in references, as opposed to people who just want, pure artist liberty. You work with my style or you get nothing. I think that there's also like a very fine line, as you were saying, where you like to have some of the artist voice still shine through. You don't want to be so specific that you're basically just asking for like a full one-to-one, because then I feel like you're sort of setting yourself up for a little bit more disappointment. Not that the quality of the art would be bad, but you'll have this like very, very, very solid idea in your head that you'll have a bit of a harder time breaking away from. And when you're working directly with an artist, you get more leverage, you get more say. It's okay to be more specific. But let's say you're doing something like character design for a VTuber, right? You're going to become a VTuber, you're going to have fans, they're going to make you fan art. If you're very specific on every single detail, you're not going to be as happy with the fan art, because the fan artists are not going to be as in tune with all of those decisions as your main artist was. So you need to have a tiny bit of flexibility that if you have fan art, it will still be close enough to your vision.
I completely agree. And also, even if you do want to be specific with your artist, I'm just going to use Will as an example here, because when they were designing my book has a very, very specific color theory or color design to it. There are certain things on there that have to be the exact color I wanted. And Will knows exactly what I'm talking about. No one else, if they've drawn it, they've gotten the colors wrong. It doesn't matter to me. If you want something so specific, you have to remember that's for you. Normal people are not going to pay attention to these tiny, tiny little details that, like, that choice means something to me, but it doesn't mean anything to most other people. And that's okay.
It's funny because, like, I'm picturing you mailing him a Pantone book now.
Well, okay, I wasn't like, this needs to be this specific shade, but like, there's 9 gemstones on the book, and those 9 stones are very specific colors. And I made sure in detail to say these are the colors that need to be used, and they were. But
no, they did a great job. It's just funny to me because, like, I used to work for a toy company, and I used to the whole point of working at that toy company was getting like the exact swatches, the exact Pantones. And with what I was working on, 90% of the characters I had to work with were a million different shades of gray, white, and black.
See, I've worked with shoes and like kids' shoes, and the amount of specificity in coloring a shoe is so mind-numbing. It's like, this needs to be Pantone blah. The line underneath it needs to be Pantone blah. And it's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, exactly.
So unreally specific. It's like, can we just not do this?
Oh my gosh. What I was doing was traditional paints. Like, we had to do acrylic mock-ups. So we had to mix the colors and then swatch them on cardstock, make sure that it was like, fully dried with a hairdryer so that it was the exact color, and then compare it against the Pantone. And then if it was wrong, you had to remix the whole color. And there were times where I'd have like little index cards, and they'd have about 40 different swatches on them because I couldn't get the exact shade they needed.
Oh my gosh. That just
it was a fun experience.
Sounds miserable.
It was a good opportunity, I won't lie.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. I know I wouldn't want to. That, like I said, sounds miserable. The small amount that I have to deal with it is already bad enough. Dealing it with on that scale sounds.
Yeah. Oh, the one thing, I don't know what the solution is for this, because I think that most clients aren't trained with like Pantones and hex codes or anything. But one thing I'm always nervous about, if they don't give you like the actual swatch, which hopefully they will, monitor differences. That kills me. I have not found a good solution for that yet.
I've only recently been introduced to that kind of a problem. And also, we're gonna put Chat Cat on screen. I realized that we should probably have an example of your art on here. There you go, Chat Cat. Welcome to the stream. But I've only recently been introduced to just how drastic of a problem that can be, because my primary monitor is actually dying.
Oh no.
It's starting to do that thing where like it's ghosting. I've been putting off getting a new one because monitors are expensive, but like the color difference between my main monitor and my secondary monitor is actually starting to get a little jarring.
Oh yeah. Or for
So,
me, like the monitor you work on versus like the phone that you upload the art to. And
oh
then you
yeah,
realize that 90% of people are gonna see it on the phone version and not the special art monitor you have.
yeah, yeah. It's I can definitely see how that would be a royal pain in the neck. Art problems. Not so much fun.
I'm getting into the nitty gritty now. Take me out of it.
But yeah, oh, here's a little bit of a spicier topic related to commissioning.
All
And
right.
I was curious about your thoughts on it, because I've worked with people who've done things in all sorts of different ways, but when it comes to actually paying your artist,
Mm-hmm.
I've worked with people who have done it like they're completely upfront. I've worked with people who only ask for payment at all whenever anything's finished. I'd say the majority of people I've worked with are like half up front, half after it's finished. But how do you, as the artist, balance? Because I don't remember what your specific terms are, and I know every artist is different. But how did you come to like where? How did you come to the decision of like what works for you on your commissions? And I was hoping you could kind of like explain a little bit of like why you came to the terms that you did, because I feel like adding the context to why people decide to do things the way they do is important.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I definitely have some thoughts on this one. I will always do 50-50, and I know that that is what a majority of more um, established artists do. And the reason I say established isn't to, knock on anyone. It's because it's what you end up doing after you've been burnt. It is what you learn to do after the fact. If you're new to commissioning, you are just happy to be paid for your art. You're like, "Oh my gosh, I've been doing this as a hobby. I do this for fun. I can't believe someone's actually willing to give me money." Um so you'll say, "Yeah, I do the art and then you pay me." The minute you get burned is the minute your TOS gets updated. So I think the main thing is like the communication between the artist and the client, right? So most clients are afraid of being ripped off. Most artists are afraid of being ripped off. Again, it's a balance. It's a dance of communication. So for me, I used to do polymer clay sculptures. I still can. I've been focusing more on the digital side of things, but I do polymer clay sculptures, which means I'm taking many hours with a physical medium and real materials and painting that up and shipping it to people. And I have had an experience, DeviantArt no less, where I custom sculpted somebody's pet, and it was like this little figurine. And of course, they had no interest in actually paying. I think it was about like a $50 job at the time, which sounds high, but for something like a handmade sculpture, that's
That's
really
pretty low.
nothing. Yeah. I
Yeah.
I was I was much more inexperienced at the time. So then I was like, okay, this isn't just a digital art piece. I want to be careful saying just. this isn't a digital art piece where it's an annoying file. I now physically have this thing, and I have nothing to do with it, and it is completely specifically painted to this person's character. So that was the day where I was like, how do I get out of this? How do I make sure this doesn't happen again? And I was doing research, figuring out what other artists did, where I actually got a lot of my initial learnings from being a commission artist is from an artist named, I believe they go by Eskiworks, ESKI, and they used to have a Tumblr post where they sort of broke down all the different things they did, and they got a lot of their information from something called the Graphic Artists Guild, and that is a book that you can purchase, the Graphic Artists Guild to Pricing and Ethical Guidelines, and that is a collection of a lot of rules and tricks of the trade that artists collectively have agreed on is sort of like the best rates for the various types of things you're doing, the best way to make it the most fair. And the other thing about the 50/50 that I personally always try to push is one, always do it through an invoice, because the invoice protects you and the client. If someone asks, PayPal friends and family, that is a recipe for disaster. If your artist asks for friends and family, you find another artist. If the client asks for friends and family, you tell them it's not acceptable. You always, always, always want to have things written in stone, agreed upon. Basically, once you send that first payment, that is a signature. You are agreeing to a contract. And the other thing with the 50/50 is I always try to communicate that this is to protect both sides. This is not just to protect me, this is also to protect you. If I don't deliver and you've paid 50 down, you're not losing everything. I might have started some of the work and we might have had, heaven forbid, there might have been some disagreement where we decided it doesn't work out, but you're not out everything. And I'm not out any of the work I've done. If I haven't started it, full refund back. I haven't done anything. But you need to pay me for my time in some form, even if it was not like, if things didn't work 100%. That's why a lot of more established artists develop something called kill fees as well. If I ask for 100% upfront, generally, you're going to be a little wary. You might think that there might be some kind of scam going on. And if it's all at the end, as I explained before, the artist is afraid of getting scammed. I'm at the point now where most of my work is 50/50, but it's at like a certain threshold. So anything under a certain amount, I just say that would be upfront, because it's like for smaller things, I don't want you to have to worry about the invoices, and I feel like I've developed my presence enough where I can sort of, use like testimonials of past clients and be like, trust me, under this amount, I'm not going to rip you off. It's not worth it to me. It's not worth my reputation. So that's kind of my winded explanation. I always, always try to make sure that the client understands that I want to try to be as fair as possible and that I want to protect both of us.
You see, it's really interesting that you bring up the aspect of the invoice, because outside of, I think, a couple people I didn't use invoices with, but that is my primary method of like paying people, is because of exactly what you said. Is like an invoice makes it official. And also, exactly. There's also like a weird psychological thing that I think happens when people send you an invoice, is like it makes it more official to them as well. It's like, oh,
this is a real thing I'm doing.
This is a real
I'm being
thing.
Serious about this.
Yes. And I typically make sure that like everything is then an invoice, because it also makes it like, so what's okay, that's actually so for Savruin, an invoice is basically you sending a official document requesting things for, so if you're the commissioner or if you're the artist, you are requesting payment for a service you are providing, and an invoice is just the like an official looking document that does that. But on some sites like PayPal, if we'll use Starlight here. So if Starlight sends me an invoice for something and I just don't pay it, well, Starlight is not going to begin anything. Or if like she's under no obligation to do anything. But if I have paid for something and later like she tries to say that I haven't, it's like, well, I've got a literal copy of the invoice. It's like, no, I paid you. And it's just,
you can kind of think of it like a receipt as well.
yeah, it's like an official receipt. That's basically all that it is. But it has a lot of implications for not just the work between you and an artist, but also for tax purposes down the road. Like it's an official, it's an official thing that carries some weight. And for a lot of places, if like so the funny thing about invoices is they don't matter 95% of the time. It's when there's a problem on either the artist's end or on the payer's end that invoices become important. So like if, like, let's say I paid the 50% up front to Starlight and Starlight never did anything, and I can prove that she never did anything. I have an official invoice, and on PayPal, if I can prove that she hasn't done anything, I'm getting my money back.
Yep.
That's a thing.
Versus, way that I like to, sorry.
But that also works the other way. Is if Starlight can prove that she has done something, I'm not getting my money. She gets to keep what she's done because she's actually done the work. If I'm like trying to scam her, invoices are basically, that's why it's protection on both sides. It's the guarantee that the client is getting what they want, but it's also protecting the artist if you can prove that you've done the thing that the invoice says you would do. That's why it's so important. Is that protection works both ways.
A lot of artists have approached me and asked me before, like, well, what do you put in an invoice? I want to start using invoices. I don't really know what it is. For whether you're using it on PayPal or, you know, let's say you have a different situation where you're just printing it out on like a Word document or something, right? Because the larger companies don't use PayPal invoices. They've got their own system. But I would always say you put the you put the actual thing you're doing, the breakup of why it's costing what it does. So let's say you're doing like rigging for a model, you might break down the prices that reflect your prices on your website. So say it's like initial model $500, blend shapes plus 100, extra expressions plus 50. You would put it into the invoice with that breakdown, and then there'd be the total. And this also makes sure that you have a written record of, hey, you didn't add this extra expression, and we agreed that you would. And the other thing I would say is always have a link to your terms of service in the invoice itself, because that also protects you. Because the client paying the invoice with the link to the terms of service on the invoice is a sign-off to basically say, yes, I have read your terms of service. And if they break something in your terms of service, you can say, well, you paid the invoice, so by that logic, you must have read the terms of service because it's there for you. This is a contract. You're agreeing to this.
This also works both ways, by the way. Chat is if you're the client, you should 1000% be reading those terms of service, because I've gotten burned many times in the past.
Please read the terms of service, especially for VTubers, because you want to make sure that they don't have anything like, for me, I have one that says, you know, if you're not debuting within 6 months, I'm allowed to put this on my social media, portfolio, whatever. You can't force me to hide this forever. I'm eventually going to show the work unless we've agreed upon something outside of it. And likewise, you can't just, you know, take the art and start selling it on merchandise. There's commercial fees, and that's all outlined in my TOS. And then on, you know, the flip side, because there's always flip sides to these things, right? Like I keep saying, it's a dance. If my TOS says, typical work pieces are done within, you know, 1 to 3 months, I've actually extended that from 1 to 3 weeks, not because it takes me usually 1 to 3 months, but it's sort of that buffer. But then I'm going on like, 4, 5, 6 months. You can then point back to the TOS saying like, hey, this is not what's agreed upon. You're going way past what you estimate your work to take.
Yeah. Yeah. Vessel wants an example of a time that a TOS has burned me. I can think of actually a couple offhand. These are some things that would actually, okay, I'm gonna give a few examples here.
I'm curious.
So, and I'll give a few examples from people that I even know that will show that like not having a TOS really doesn't give you any legs to stand on. Or not reading a TOS, or if an artist doesn't have a TOS, doesn't give you any legs to stand on. I'm going to use a friend of mine as an example. And this is going to sound negative, but it's not, I promise.
Okay.
When I originally commissioned Nick Jelly for my first starting screen, there was a loose talk of delivery dates, but there was nothing hard and fast, right? There wasn't really a firm TOS. Now, me being impatient, obviously I wanted as soon as I could, but because I never said like, can we have this be the delivery date? That never came up. No, Nick, I love you. No, I know I'm used to use example, but this is just to to show why you need to talk about it. But like on other projects, one that may or may not be worked on, the delivery date was never a hard and fast rule, so I'm fine getting it when I get it, but if you've never talked about that with your artist, that could become a big deal. Because like, let's say I need the thing from Nick tomorrow, and I didn't tell him that I needed it tomorrow until right this second on this stream. Obviously that's not going to happen. And if I wanted to be a real asshole about it, I would have no leg to stand on because that was never officially agreed on for anything, right? Exactly. Like that's a thing. And then like the similar type of thing with other people I've worked with. Get to it. No, Nick, I'm not trying to bully you. I'm just using it as an example. But like, even with other artists, like even with Cinnamon Moon, who I work with very frequently, they often ask for a deadline, and I don't usually have one. Sometimes circumstances change, and like all of a sudden I need it like as fast as possible, and I will communicate that to the artist, but they are under no obligation to finish it in the new time frame because that's not what we agreed on in the first place. So like
exactly, yeah.
Having this discussion of like, if I need something by X date, I have to be the one to tell you this has to be done by this date. If not,
I also recommend sorry, I keep interrupting. It's hard to match this.
Yeah, but it's just like that is something that is so important, is like, because like for a lot of the projects I do, when they get done, they get done. I'm not really, I feel like most people I've worked with understand that like, I know you got stuff going on in your life, I got stuff going on in mine. As long as it's not like contractually obligated for me, stuff's going to get done when it gets done. I'm not really too worried about that. But if it's my responsibility as the client to both ensure that I've read your TOS and can communicate with you on specific examples of when things need to be done by. An actual example, a bad example that I will provide here is I was supposed to have like 5 separate things done on my birthday stream this year, and literally none of them were. One of them, they missed the deadline, and that I haven't really talked about this, but it was a whole commissioned thing that I was supposed to have done that it wasn't done on time. And this was someone I very clearly communicated, this needs to be done by this date or else this isn't going to work. And they agreed to that. And that was a long, annoying battle to get my money back from that, because they ended up not finishing it because they were upset with me being upset with them for them not delivering something on time. And like that. But because this is an instance where the TOS almost burned me, because they had it in their TOS that once something was started, they would not be offering any refunds. But I kind of countered with the fact of like, you also agreed to have it done by, because I had said when I was paying them, by me paying you, you are agreeing to have this done by this date. And PayPal ended up siding with me. That's kind of like if I hadn't added that on the invoice,
exactly,
there is literally nothing, like I would have lost the case. And it wasn't a small amount of money. It was like $300 worth of stuff that just would have evaporated into the void. And that's so like reading artist terms and making sure if anything is off, you cannot assume. Like this is the pessimist in me. This is like the paranoid cat coming out, but like you should always assume someone's worst intentions if you're looking at something from a legal lens. Yeah. Because 99% of the time, it's probably not going to matter. But when push comes to shove, that's where things like the letter of the law is the only thing that matters. And when it comes to like invoices and getting refunds and TOS, like that's what matters in the end.
It's like Vessa was saying earlier, like, you know, you want to make sure that your smoke alarm works. Not that you should ever want to have to use it, but just for that like one instance. I think the other thing I want to say is, you know, again on the art side, because I know that most of your perspective is on the client side, but for artists, I would say in your TOS, absolutely have it written down, like, you know, your general estimation of how long most of your work takes, and then have a line in there that very clearly states you must communicate any required deadlines during the initial order period, and have that in the TOS, because, you know, like Raelz was saying, if he hadn't put in the invoice the date he needed, then he would have no recourse, but because he did, PayPal sided with him. So I would absolutely, for any artist, make sure there's a line in your TOS that explicitly states you must communicate any deadlines.
Yeah.
Especially in the VTubing sphere, when you have things like, you know, stream anniversaries and debuts and whatnot.
Yep. Because I will admit, also hi Cozy, that I didn't do that when I was first commissioning things, which led to some problems, which is why I communicate it now.
Yeah.
But
you learn as you go, right? You learn as a commissioner, and then you learn as an artist. You know,
well, it's like you mentioned,
as an artist, your TOS changes. As a commissioner, your communication methods change.
Your TOS changes once you've been burned. As a commissioner, your outlook on how to deal with artists changes the first time you've been burned.
It's funny because I like to make this joke that you can tell how long an artist has been around by how long their TOS is.
Yeah. That's so true.
That's another point I want to make real quick. I see so many artists who are brand new to commissioning, and they will have a TOS like 8 pages long, and I know that they copied it from someone else. And it's okay to reference bits of your TOS from, you know, multiple people here and there if there's some points where it's like, oh, I really need to address this. But if you just do a 1-for-1 copy, and I've had people who have done 1-for-1 copies, you won't know why there are things in that TOS that are written the way they are until you've experienced it for yourself. There's a lot of things that you really need to have the experience of having worked with a client before you understand why it's written the way it is. And where was I going? In terms of the like the copying of a TOS, sometimes you can tell because there'll be things in the TOS that don't include what you offer. Like in a most egregious example, I've seen some TOSs that'll have all these things about, like, you know, 2Ds, PNGs, layer files, or whatever, and they do like VR chat models, let's say. And it's like, I can tell that you didn't even look enough at this to see what could apply to you. So one thing I would say to new commission artists is build the TOS as you go. Keep adding things as you experience things. Yes, you might be frustrated that you might get burned or ripped off in the beginning because there's something that you didn't have in the TOS that a more experienced artist did, but you need to experience it for yourself to know what that is and have the personal know-how of how to change that in the future. You have to go through some of that pain, honestly. So
Yeah.
I would definitely say, like, keep it simple in the beginning. Your TOS will get longer the longer you do this.
And on the commissioner side of that, vet your artists.
Yes.
Like there are some people that I would commission without hesitation. Like I did Nick a little dirty earlier, so I'm gonna do him a solid here. Like I know Nick is good for whatever the hell I'm commissioning him for, right? Like
Yeah.
but because he also has a body of work that's like, I know exactly what I'm going to get out of this. Same thing with Cinnamon Moon, same thing with you, same thing with Will, same thing with, all these other people. Is I have done a lot of research into the people that I commission because I have been burned.
Mm-hmm.
And so it sounds like, because like Akari's done a really good job of Starlight. I need to know why I can't. Okay, for anyone here, Starlight's name is Starlight, not Akari. I was corrected of this. I don't know why I started saying Akari, but I'm trying to get over that.
It's a typical, trope VTuber setup where it's, Japanese styled, so it's usually last first, but for me, it's not in the last first style, so I know it can get confusing because Akari is usually seen as a first name, but I've been going by Starlight much longer, and the Akari part was actually something added on later when I developed the demi-human form, again for the closer connection to the VTubing and anime sphere. So I understand how it can be confusing.
There you go. I wanted to get that there. But to return to the point, Starlight has made it sound like the artist TOS is the thing that always has to be updated, but it's really both sides. Is like as much effort as the artist has to put in protecting themselves, you, the commissioner, should have already done your homework to like vet the artist on your own, which is something that I have traditionally failed at. Up until like probably like the last year, I think I've gotten pretty good at it. But like before that, I've almost gotten scammed numerous times because I just didn't do the due diligence. I mean, you guys have heard some of the stories I've done. But it was my bad. It was my bad. And me getting scammed was entirely my fault. So, and I think I actually want your opinion on this, Starlight, because I think this is what leads to a lot of the problems. Is, and I've definitely felt this as a commissioner, is I will see someone who I am passingly familiar with, like I like their art, I've seen them post art on Twitter or YouTube or wherever, and I'll see that their commissions are open, and that triggers something in me of like, oh, I've wanted to think about getting a commission from them, I should jump on this immediately. Yeah. Without like, especially if it's someone who's like emergency commissions because something happened or whatever, and it's like, oh, I need to hop on this, right? And yep. you pull the trigger to commission someone before you've done your due diligence.
One thing I would definitely say, sorry.
No, go ahead.
One thing I would definitely keep in mind, and this is going to sound, a little bit tough, but just because an artist is very, very talented doesn't mean that they are good with business. Like, I know, for example, Vilder and Nick Jelly, yes. They are both very talented, and you've worked well with them and can trust them. But I've seen so many artists who have very, very high-quality work, constantly churning out personal pieces, and then they'll open commissions, and a lot of people will jump on it because the quality is very high. But that doesn't always mean that they've got the business side of it down.
And also, I think another thing to add on to that is it's from my perspective, again, as the non-artist, it seems to me that like for you as the artist to make something you're really excited about, it's really easy to make something look awesome because you intrinsically care more about it. Because it's like, if it's the fan art or whatever that you made, you automatically care about it more than what I am giving to you. Because I am giving, it's not your idea you're working on my idea. Which, as much as I love artists and just people in general, you will never care as much about someone else's idea as you will as your own.
Yep.
And
I'm a little bit opposite. I have a harder time making things for myself because I like seeing I like fulfilling clients a lot more, but I definitely agree with what you're saying. Like, there's different artists have such different ways of going about things. Like, I used to know this one artist who was very, very strongly in the realm of, I want to make money as an artist, but I want to communicate with you the least amount possible. And their work is very technically good, but they don't want to work with commissioners, really. If they could just get paid and just sort of do it like, full skeb style where you're not really sure what you're going to get until the end, like, they would prefer to do it that way. So, very, very good work ethic, but maybe not so great on the client communication business side. And to be fair, I think that it's hard. Like, even trained artists in art school, the business side is very looked over. A lot of people do not dig into it. There's actually a lot that I had to learn on my own that just doesn't get talked about in art school. We've had classes where it's about, like, branding yourself, getting your business cards or your website laid out or all that, but it doesn't mean that you've figured out the communication side of things.
Yeah. And I think that's what probably 99, if not 100% of the problems comes down to with commissioning and commissioners is if we can just talk to each other, we will get somewhere. Like, we'll get to where we need to be. Because I definitely talk with some artists more than others because I don't, like, again, if it's something that, like, I want a lot of details on, like with I'll use Will as the example here. When we were designing Raelz, there was a lot of back and forth, like a lot. We talked a ton about, like, they would send me a list of things to choose from. They'd send me a sketch and be like, okay, I like this, this, and this. Can we change this? They'd send back a different sketch and be like, okay, I like this. Can we combine it with this? Because, like, the thing that we were doing was very technical. And if Will hadn't been as communicative with me, that would have been a very frustrating and annoying process because, like, design details would have been skipped. Whereas, like, on the other end of the spectrum, Cinnamon gets an MS Paint and, like, a 2-line description and a couple references, and then I'm content to just wait until they're done. Because we don't need to talk much more. Like, they'll send me, like, a couple work in progress maybes, or, like, here's the general sketch, and I'm like, looks great. And then a week later, here's the finished piece. I'm like, awesome.
Yeah.
But the problem is if you've only worked with artists like Will, when I was designing something, not every artist is going to communicate on that level, like, to get, like, where we're having, like, back and forth every day about, like, little tiny things, or, like, but then on the other end, if you've only worked with people like, Cinnamon, who we don't need to talk a lot to get the process done, that's not going to translate as well to, other projects that you do. And so that,
right.
I feel like that breakdown in communication is, you really do have to treat every artist, surprisingly, you have to treat every artist like their own individual person, because the method of communication you use for someone, or for one, is not going to work with another. And I feel like that's just where all the problems come from. No, you're good. I want to hear all your thoughts.
I was gonna say the other thing is like, a piece from Cinnamon Moon and a piece from like what Vilder was doing is very different projects, and I think that's also something to keep in mind is like, Cinnamon Moon there you're getting a an album cover. So there's a lot more artistic liberty there, whereas something like a character design, there's going to inherently be a lot more revisions, a lot more communication, a lot more work. I
Hmm.
actually want to just pop over to what Cozy Chew said here. With Skeb style commissions have been growing more popular, even off Skeb. I kind of like it. It's healthy for a lot of artists to work that way. So I think that I definitely agree with her, and I want to point that out because I was saying like, oh, it's annoying when artists just want to work Skeb style. I think it's very dependent on the type of thing that you're getting. I would be
Hmm.
a little bit nervous to do like a design commission in Skeb style. But I know there's people who
I
do it
straight
in the
up
form of
wouldn't.
like what?
I straight up wouldn't do it.
Like
I
if you're
need.
open to ideas, you're doing like adoptable stuff, then
Oh
that's a
yeah, yeah,
different
sure,
concept,
true.
yeah. But I do agree with Cozy that I think it is very healthy to develop like maybe one or two types of services that you designate as being Skeb style because, as artists we like working with commissioners, but we also need a little bit more of that freedom, and we still like working with people, but we also want to we might want to do quicker works that we can, might not be as refined as what we typically do, but if there's someone who likes our style, generally trusts us, isn't super picky on the detail, and knows ahead of time that this is how we're approaching it, we say, this is Skeb style, there won't be revisions, this going in. I think it's very healthy to have an option like that, as well as the things where you are openly more communicative.
Since I saw in uh chat, for those of you who don't know what Skeb is, because I'm only tangentially familiar with. I know what it is and I know what the output is, but Skeb, to my understanding, please correct me if I am wrong, is basically a site where you put in an idea for an image you want and you can give references, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And then an artist on Skeb can choose to take that commission. Like you're not commissioning an artist, I believe. Like, or can you?
I think you can directly, contact a
A
specific
specific
artist,
artist. But
and then
basically,
they can, choose to approve your request or not.
but from my understanding is you give them the stuff and then you get no input until it's done.
Yeah. So,
So
like,
whatever comes
another
out is
way to
what
think
comes
of it
out.
is like, yeah. Another way to think of it is like, I know on VGen, they don't really say Skeb because that's a Japanese only site. If you don't live in Japan, you can't be an artist on Skeb. But a lot of people on VGen like the concept of it, so they've started calling them surprise commissions, which is the same kind of idea. Or I've seen some people call them gotcha commissions, right? You don't know what you're gonna get, and you knowingly commission something with the intent that it is a gotcha roll, essentially.
Oh, I will say that usually these types of commissions are significantly cheaper than
Yeah,
normal.
because I think a lot of things that clients might not be as familiar with is like I've seen some people say like, why is commissioning an artist so much more expensive than something like Skeb? And it's directly tied to the concept of the communication aspect, because I think a lot of people don't really understand how much time the communication aspect is accounted for in the commission. Like
Mm-hmm.
that is the artist's time talking back and forth with you, that they could also be doing for the drawing. So, that is on the clock work, essentially. So with a Skeb thing, it's more like it can be on your own time. The wait time, the fulfillment time can actually be fairly long. Um, and it's more of like a, I'll get to it when I get to it kind of thing. But it's also a really good option for some artists who just say like, I've done a lot of things lately that are very specific, and I just need to do some loose pieces that are very freeform for my mental sanity.
I do think that it probably has to be very freeing for mental sanity. Also, just to add on to what you just said, uh, to really emphasize the amount of time, just for fun, I have been on the side adding together all of the messages back and forth that Will and I had when talking about the Raelz Commission, just to put in perspective of the sheer volume of time. We said 2,000 words to each other during the entire process. That is a lot of words. That's like 10 essay pages of talking about a single commission. And like, that's not including all the time for like the sketching and thinking about the sketch and looking like, so that's why Skebs can afford to be a little bit cheaper, is because all that communication, that is a lot of actual time that was spent doing a thing. So removing all of that kind of helps explain why
yeah, it's like that that time is your billable hours, right?
Yep. Because that's something that I do think that people need to think about from the commissioner side of things, is especially if something is getting like a little pricey for you, I think, which is a good lead in from the Skeb discussion, is unlike a lot of traditional work, like what you would think of as a actual traditional job, like working at Walmart, right? Is you are on the clock when you are at Walmart. When you're not there, you don't have to do literally anything about that. Art, though, has a lot more like imagination and a lot more like cerebral thinking going on. Of like, if I give you an idea, you're not going to immediately just be able to draw the final version in your mind. Like, there's going to be a lot of iterations, a lot of thinking about it, and that's all technically on the time, like on the clock time for a project.
Yep.
And when you're communicating back and forth, those ideas are still constantly being think about. And I don't know, I wanted to just bring that up while we were talking about like pricing of random shenanigans, because I feel like that's something that a lot of people from the commissioner doesn't really think about. Actually, I'm going to use Nick as another great example here. Nick's pieces are actually insane.
Nick, I love your work.
I actually can't comprehend how Nick's brain manages to put these things together.
It's honestly phenomenal.
But like, me just thinking about that, and like thinking about like how all the little individual pieces would have to fit, that's still all on the clock work and stuff like that. So even if you're not getting an actual like thing done for a while, like a sketch or whatever, that doesn't mean that work isn't being done. Right. It's or like even when you were designing Check Cat, right? Like, because I think the design on it was a little slower. Like, we were only messaging like every couple days, comparatively to some other stuff that I've worked with. But it's like, it's not like stuff wasn't getting done. It's just from the commissioner side of things, you got to be patient and also understand that like a lot of the work is stuff that you're never going to see.
Yeah.
So,
I think the other thing is like with Chat Cat, that was sort of like a mutual agreement type thing.
Yeah.
Whereas like at the same time I was working on some like very large scale things. I think that's the other thing that sometimes clients aren't aware of, is like when you commission an artist, they are very likely not just working on your piece. They are likely working on different things and going back and forth and messaging commissioners with regular updates among like, that's why we have Trello queues, right? Or just openly showing your art queue to see like how many people you're currently working with. I think a lot of artists need to do that because it keeps your mind fresh, it keeps the ideas fresh, you're not like getting slogged down by one project. And ultimately, like, it feels like the work is going slower because you personally are not seeing like each update daily. Please don't ask your artists for daily updates, I beg of you. But everything is sort of moving in like this rhythmic clock-like pattern where we're sort of jumping between different commissions and staying fresh on things.
Yeah. Definitely agree with that statement. But actually, to lead into that, I did want to so Torbites Media brings up a great thing of, because I know my answer to this question. I'm really curious to hear your answer. Is what sites would you recommend commission artists to go to find clients for the first time?
So my first commissions were actually oh my gosh. So my first commissions were through DeviantArt and Gaia Online, and if anyone knows who that is, what that is, we're talking like, Neopets levels of.
That's a name I haven't heard since the dawn of time. Oh gosh.
I took my first commissions with DeviantArt points and Gaia Online Gold, and I think that things might be different now. I think a lot of newer artists, especially younger artists, they take a lot of commissions with a virtual currency for a game. I think nowadays a lot of younger artists take Roblox money. I think I've seen that a lot. So that's sort of something that when you're younger, the stakes are a little bit lower. If you are getting into this and you are older and you have very good work and you just kind of want to like start making an income, I think the typical advice people give is go into various communities that have the type of people who the ideal audience that you're looking for, right? So don't do what the bot accounts do, where you private message people and say, "Hi, I'm an artist. Do you want a commission?" Do not do that, please. People know that is what bots do. They will automatically assume you are a bot.
Sorry, this is a side tangent, but this is so related. Did you know that Discord, I think you know this, but for everyone else, Discord now shows me if you join my server and you message people who aren't your friends, I can just ban you immediately now. I can kill the stupid spammers. Oh, it's so nice. Just don't do that, please. There's no faster way to get a potential client to instantly block you forever and go out of their way to never want to deal with you than to DM them, "Hey, can you commission me?"
Yep.
And I've never seen your name before.
Even if you are a real artist, even if you're not a bot, everyone will assume you're a bot. So
now, I will say there is one exception to that, because this actually happened with, I believe it was Swody, who is the artist behind the logo for Off the Rails. I said something on stream about wanting a specific thing.
That's a huge difference.
And then
right?
they DM'd me saying, "Hey, is this what you're thinking?" Like, that is totally cool.
But like, that's someone in your community who is opening up the conversation with, "I know you, I know what you were talking about, I am engaged, I have this idea, let's talk about it." I think I think I was even doing that with the chat cat a bit, right?
Yeah, you did too. But like, I think you can personally, I think you can still get away with that, even if you're not a known like if you're not known within my community and you still did that. But like, you sent me something that was what I was asking for. Like that is something that you can get away with.
Yeah, but I think that, like you're saying, when what you're asking for, the most important point of that is to establish right from the bat, "I'm familiar with you, I've seen this thing, I can relate to this thing, here's my connection to this thing."
Yeah. And that ties back into what you were saying of picking a community and establishing yourself within it. Because there's an amazing number of parallels between content creation and artistry in general. is generally you want to become known for doing a thing. Because if you're known for doing one thing very well, you become kind of the authority on that thing. And so if you're like, if you are actually like pretty good at doing something, niche down to get especially this is specifically if you're really trying to go for client work. Like, choose the thing that you're good at and then really focus on a specific type of community or a specific type of genre that doesn't have that already being fulfilled.
It's so funny that you say that, though, because I have gone through my own turmoil with that, right? Like, in terms of I've jumped so many times with the type of audience I was trying to reach. Like, oh, I'll be doing I want to do surface pattern, or in the beginning, I really I was scared to be freelance in the beginning, aside from like a few things here and there on DeviantArt. I was thinking, you know, long term, I'm gonna be working on at a major company. So I developed my portfolio for the kind of things that the company would want, right? Like at one point, I thought I wanted to do video game stuff. My stuff was a little bit more like hand painted, a little bit more realistic, trying to get a bit more of that Blizzard Riot look. At one point I wanted to try to go more for animated characters, entertainment industry. I was trying to go for like more of a Disney Pixar thing, and I kept changing my style to adapt to those areas. And needless to say, all of those things were basically my loophole to try to get as close as I could to anime. But now, like, trying to go more into the VTuber sphere, I'm pushing a lot of the work towards more of the anime side. And it's funny because I was like, you know, I really want to be doing the cute girl type of things. I really want to do the sparkles and the color and all that stuff. And ironically, I have not gotten much of that kind of work at all. I think I can count on, like, you know, one hand how many clients I've gotten who wanted like some cute, sparkly, happy thing. A lot of things I've done have actually been more like action-based or animal-based or, you know, all this stuff. So the more I do those things, the more people think I'm known for doing that. The more I get commissioned for that kind of thing. So I would say that, you know, figure out the community that you want to be in, niche that down, and then adapt your portfolio to that, because what you show to the public is what they will see that you're good at. And I've tried doing the whole jack of all trades thing. I used to joke that I would want to be open to doing anything from, you know, Hello Kitty to realistic mecha. I don't want to be that person anymore. But really evaluate the work that you currently have and think, is this the kind of audience that I want to work with? Is this where I want to cultivate? Like, personally for me, next year my goal is to do a lot more super cutesy, colorful, magical girl type things, because that is really the area that I want to start working with. I still want to also do, you know, animal and furry stuff. So I'm also going to be developing some of that. But at the moment, I think a lot of my portfolio doesn't reflect the direction I want to start moving to. So I think that that's something you have to be very mindful of when you want to work with people. And you will get people who will say, hey, I've seen you do this, you know, cutesy stuff, for example. I want you to do this dark black and red themed male character. And then that's up to you. I know that there's some people who will be like, no, I don't want to do that at all. Some people will be more open to it. But it's more of like, what is the average that you want? Because I do think it's good to branch out a bit and take on some things that you might not be as comfortable or familiar with. But sort of think about your brand. I didn't get to talk about this too much, but that's something I'm very much focused on lately, is think about what your personal brand, your brand identity, your vibe communicates to other people. And then if it's not how you want to communicate to other people, shift that around until you're more on track with what your artistic destiny is that you want it to be in.
I completely agree. And from my side of things, I can definitely tell you that people will commission you based off of the thing that you choose to do a lot. Because I'm going to use Will as an example here. The primary reason, I'm not even going to sugarcoat this. The primary reason why I chose Will to draw Rayleigh is because of how they made a different model that had the harsh, like, looking features and smugness that I wanted. I that was the one character, like, and their art is great. Yeah, I specifically called out the teeth. I think when in my opening DM to them is like, you do the teeth the way that I want. I think like that's how specific I was being. Like that's not even a meme. I literally did that because of the teeth and like one expression they did on a fan art. And I was like, I want that. That is exactly the thing, like the most important thing that I'm looking for. And
Yeah.
so if you think that something can be too specific, it probably isn't, because commissioners
it can
like me
honestly
are
be
weird,
anything.
right? Like it's just something that you do exceptionally well
Yeah.
can be the
like,
one
for me,
thing that people care about. Like,
yeah, I want to start putting like I really want to start getting known more for like prismatics, like rainbows and holographic type stuff. So I'm trying to integrate that more and more into my art as I go, so that people who want that style will sort of pick it up from what I'm doing, being like, she does a lot of cutesy stuff, but if I want, going back to that red and black idea, but I know that she could do this in an interesting way that kind of, might tie in more color, like a black holographic effect or something. I want to sort of be known for that and find commissioners who want to go in that sort of direction.
I completely agree. But
So I think it's really like it's really how you present yourself. How do you want the general public to see your work? And if it's not the way that you want it to be, then you have to slowly work on developing it and shifting it. I've shifted my style so many times because I couldn't get the audience that I ultimately wanted to cultivate. And I feel like with each thing I'm doing lately, I'm sort of getting closer and closer into like, this is what I'm really good at. I don't think I'm ever going to be the type of person that says, won't draw this, won't draw this, won't draw this. I think sometimes the list can be a little bit large, but I think that keeping more of your own voice is very important for any artist.
Yes. That actually brings me into a good side anecdote that I think we were talking a little bit about this before we started streaming today, but the will do won't do list, like you just mentioned, that was actually a really big problem for me when I first started VTubing, because guess what? No one wanted to draw male VTubers.
I'm sorry, to each their own.
Oh,
I don't
my
understand
gosh.
the ones that say won't draw guys. I get it. You can have your thing. You want to be known for your thing. You establish your brand, as I was saying. Totally understand it. But I feel like there's some things that it's like you're cutting off a large audience. Like, if it's what you want to do, more power to you. Not gonna stop you. But there's a lot that you could also have.
I think that like again, if an artist just says they're not going to do it, you just kind of have to respect that. But
yeah.
On the other hand, it's like, man, if you being open with what type of stuff you can draw or are willing to draw, personally, I feel shows that you're willing to grow. Sorry, we're having a Roomba moment real quick. I thought I turned it off.
I blame Vessa.
I also blame Vessa. Okay, there we go. It should be done now. But I do think that in this discussion of like finding your own niche is be willing to experiment with it a little bit. And like in the beginning, like I would sit again, this is coming from a non-artist, so please, you know, have your opinion. I would love your opinion on this, but if you are trying to like find your niche, you do have to be willing to go outside of your comfort zone
Yeah,
to
for sure.
find out like, oh, maybe the person, you know, I see people talking about mechas in chat. But like maybe you've never tried to draw mechs and you just think that you've never wanted to do them. But I don't know, I'd say maybe give it a shot.
I've had a few people that have tried to convince me to try drawing mech. The thing with mech is I understand it a little bit more just because
I will say
the
mech is
level
crazy, but
yeah, the level of detail and work is usually on an entirely different playing field to what you normally do. I mean, if you're saying like, you know, I don't want to draw guys, it's very similar in a lot of ways to how you're already drawing girls, for instance.
and
But
newsflash, a lot of VTubers are totally fine with effeminate guy models. Cough,
yeah,
cough, looks at the
Niji
entire
Sanji, you
VTuber
know,
market.
there's absolutely. I like if you want to say like, you know, I don't want to draw extremely muscular, you know, WWE men. Okay, that's one thing. But if you're doing pretty girls, you can also get a lot with, you know, pretty guys, Otomai style, that kind of thing. I think there's a lot of artists that leave opportunities on the table by saying that they won't draw furries, because I think that everyone kind of gets this idea of, if I draw furries, I have to be part of the furry fandom and I don't want to be in that whole world. You can literally just draw the cute character you're already doing, give him a little bit of a cat nose. I've seen so many very humanoid looking furry designs. Like, it's really not that much of a shift, but so many people are just against the group that they just don't want to even touch it. And it's like, there's a lot of opportunities on the table, and if you don't want to do it, that's fine. I'll take it.
True. I mean, I guess that's one way to look at things. It's like, well, if you're gonna be too uptight to do it, I'll take all the money. Let's go.
Yeah, like Vessa's saying, like BNA, the anime, Brand New Animal, Studio Trigger, they have like a very anime looking anthro characters. So, you know, there's just, I feel like the thing with going outside your comfort zone, exploring that whole thing, is if you have the
Don't worry about it. There we go.
incredible.
Continue, please.
If you have the vibe or the style that you like, and I could go on an entire stream on its own about art style. But if you sort of have the look and the technique that you like doing, and you've sort of developed something that you are happy doing, you sort of have your vibes, your favorite brushes, your favorite techniques, favorite mediums, all that. I feel like you can kind of get to the point, maybe not always on commission, but you can kind of get to the point where, as long as I feel comfortable in the way that I'm doing something, I can start experimenting and playing around with the subject matter. Like for me, I like thinking about it with, I have a certain way that I like to do digital art, I have a certain way that I like to work in Clip Studio Paint, certain brushes I'm comfortable with. If someone asked me to draw a tractor, I would be happier doing it in a comfortable way of working. If someone says I'm allowed to add like more color and, you know, holographic effects to a tractor, I could still draw a tractor even if what I want my main thing to be is like a cute anime style, if that makes sense. Likewise, if you do something that is a little bit more like sketchy, graphite, charcoal, that whole thing, and someone asks you to try to do it with a cute anime girl, as long as you kind of have this like artistic comfort level, I feel like you can afford to play around a little bit. Not that you want to always take it on commission, but if someone was testing you and saying like, hey, could you do this? As long as the workflow is familiar to you, I feel like you can experiment a lot more on the subject matter.
I definitely agree. And I also think that like it also leaves a better impression on the, like, again, this it's kind of funny how so much of like art and commissioner problems comes back to communication, because newsflash, people are
Okay.
just bad at it. But like I've reached out to artists before asking like, hey, is this a thing that you can do? It's not explicitly denied in their terms of service, but it's like kind of hinted at, like, because, you know, surprisingly, people don't, if they're not into drawing cats, they don't want to draw cats. Who would have thought? But if it's someone who like they kind of put you down, like, well, I could do something like this in this style. Is that okay? Like, we could experiment with this. Like, even just you talking about like alternate ways and even of doing things, and even if it ultimately doesn't end up working out, I will still leave with a higher impression of you for like having tried to work things out with me than just having a giant no list over everything and just not even giving me the opportunity.
Exactly.
And sometimes it goes to somewhere else. Like, I'm actually going to use, well, okay, I can't name them by name because the project's still secret, but a person who I know Cozy is at least acquainted with, I recently commissioned. But I was like, hey, can you do this thing? And they're like, maybe. And we talked about it for a little while. They ended up ultimately not being comfortable with it. Not because like of the content, but just like the things I wanted done. They're like, I don't know if I can do that. And like the fact that I respect them so much more for saying that no, they couldn't do it. Which I think ties into this whole like stuff you won't do. If there's something that you genuinely feel like you don't have the skills for, the person who's asking you to do a thing is not going, they're not going to be upset at you. Well, normal people won't be upset at you. I'm not going to make the claim that there aren't crazy people on the internet, you know, surprise, surprise. But normal people will actually be happier that you said, no, I don't think I can do that, than you trying to muddle your way through. And it's going to make your life a lot less miserable as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Because if you say that you can do something, I have no frame of reference of like what your skill level is for that. I just think you're going to do it to the same skill level as the rest of your art, which is probably not something you're going to do because you're uncomfortable with it.
I think being upfront about that is definitely a smart thing to do. Like, instead of saying like, oh yeah, sure, I can do anything, like, be upfront and say, it will be more experimental. It's not something I've really done. I'm not super comfortable with the subject, but if you like my art style and you're willing to take a little bit of a chance, then, you know, let's see if we can work together.
And I think a lot of people will take that chance.
Yeah.
Because with this artist that I ended up commissioning something different from them, they're like, I can't really do this, but if you have anything in this style, I can try it. And I was like, again, I'm pretty familiar with this in particular artist, but I was like, okay, well, this is a lot less complicated than the other thing I was going to try and get you to do. And it was also cheaper because it was not nearly as complicated. So I was like, you know what? For the price I'm paying for this, it'll probably at least be cool. But I'm not going to tie like a lot of like quality expectations here. Like, I think it'll be just good. I don't think it's going to be amazing, but you could surprise me. And if you do surprise me, then that's awesome. But like the fact that they were just very transparent about their skills is if I know what you're capable of or what you've told me you're capable of and you delivered to that, I can't be mad. I can't be upset. Like, I'm just going to be, if anything, I'll just be happy. I'll be happy with that we talked it out. We got to where we need to be. And yeah, I don't know. That's a mini tangent, but I just kind of felt it fit in a little bit with the current conversation.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And Blank also parrots as like, it's better to say I could try, but I don't think it's going to look very good. That is also a way of like, I think gently putting people down. Is that I think most people get the hint of if you yourself say, I'm not sure it's going to look that great, like that. I feel because I've worked with people who haven't done that before, and the result was terrible, and I wish they would have just told me that they
Right.
couldn't do it. But like, I don't know if this is just more me as a person, but if you tell me that you don't think you can do something, yeah, I might not end up commissioning you. Why? But I will still talk about you to other people and be like, they're clear with what they say they can do. Like, I to me that's a huge, like, that's a huge boost in confidence for someone like me, is if I've heard of an artist who admits when the thing that they're doing isn't like up to their normal quality because it's outside of their scope or whatever. Like that doesn't take away from your skill as an artist. If anything, that just boosts my confidence in what you say you can do, is if you know what you can't do.
Right. And like people talk as well. So,
Yeah.
if you're looking for something like I don't know, if you're looking for something like cat related and the person does super detailed mecha and they're like, I'm not really sure if I can do like a cute cat design, but then you have a friend who says I need to look for someone who does a lot of mecha, then you know who to send them to.
Yep. And I think Cozy brings up a great point, is I think it's fine to have hard no's sometimes if you know you've tried it and it just doesn't go well. Like, I am unfortunately one of those don't draw men people. Cozy, how dare you? I can't believe I'm friends with you. But no, I think that is okay.
Yeah, Cozy, I
If
think it's fine. Like, if you've tried it and you're like, no, it doesn't work with my personal style and my aesthetic, I think that there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just sort of a little wary of people who are like, I don't like this thing, therefore I'm not gonna try this thing.
there's also, and this is just my personal opinion as well, is I've also seen on people's TOSs on the stuff where they say do's and don'ts, right?
Hmm.
Is the people who have tried it and explain it, uh, like, I get it. Like, if again,
Oh yeah,
it just
yeah.
helps that community, because like a part of the problem with me is that uh this is past trauma from when I was originally trying to find male VTuber model artists, but like just seeing I don't draw men in like 30 profiles back to back to back to back with no explanation is
Oh, yep.
like, okay, but why? And then you come across the one person who's like, I don't draw these things for these reasons. It's like, oh, okay, I get it. You know.
Yeah, no,
So
completely. I mean, I see on my side, I see so many people who say like, won't draw furries, not gonna touch that, too gross. But then I'll see like the one person who says, won't draw furries, have nothing against the community, just don't feel comfortable drawing animals. And I will immediately have a better mindset. I will have so much more respect for you.
yeah, I like, obviously I can't tell artists what to put in their TOS, but if you are going to just be actively against something, even having just like a simple sentence to explain, like, it doesn't have to be deep. Like, it's like, won't draw animals. Sorry guys, I'm just not good with animals. Like,
Yeah,
that's it. That's fine.
yeah. Because like the last thing that you want is to come across an artist who you think just has some sort of disgust or a vendetta for the thing that you are or that you like or that you want to portray. You always
Yeah.
want to have just like a better feeling about the artist that you're looking into. So to know that it's more of like a technical related thing than a no, I'm just not okay with this kind of thing. And I mean, like, again, everyone has their own opinion. Everyone can be, for or against whatever they want to. I'm not saying that. But if that's not the case, then communicating it and saying like, I'm not as good at drawing animals. I've seen some that said, won't draw, animals, still learning.
Yeah. I I think I think this just all boils down to the types of presentation. Obviously, like, I'm a very specific type of commissioner, as is everyone who's looking for art. Like, just as every artist is different, every potential client is going to be just as different. So
Hmm.
I can only say things from my own personal viewpoints. So, Cozy, if you don't draw me a male model right now, I'm ending our friendship. I can say that because she'll DM me about something later. Relationship or friendship with Cozy ended. Wait, I need to find a different art. Will is now my best. There we go. Actually, I've never even had anything art related from Cozy. So I can't even make that joke. Oh gosh. But I can pick on her because she's a good friend.
Cozy, your work is adorable.
Human List 2.0. No. Human List is never going to exist again. I've already made that. I've made my peace with that. Why do you hate me? Because, Cozy, you're fun to tease, I guess. And I know you'll do it right back. So shut up. Oh gosh. But yeah, for those of you who don't know, Human List is never. Well, he'll appear in videos and stuff, but he's never coming back. We're cat for life, baby. At least in some form. But yeah, it just, I don't know, it's just that the whole thing is just to show like your presentation to potential clients is important, and you know, just it would all those things are just things I would recommend considering when you're making your own TOS and things like that. And
again, it goes back to, you know, brand and communication. How do you want to appear to people, and, you know, can you get on, like, you know, mutual playing fields talking to potential clients?
A moment of silence for Human Raelz. Okay, Jeff. Sorry. Okay. Moving on. Okay. Let's see here. We have not gotten through a lot of these. That's okay though. I typically send people lists of questions of stuff that we might go over, and we've not gotten through many of them, but that's okay. You know, if we didn't go off topic every now and then, I feel like I'd have to change the name of the show. So it's fine. Oh, here's actually a somewhat related question.
Right.
What tough love piece of advice would you give to people getting into art and like wanting to do it for, like, I think specifically for commissioning, because I think there's a whole separate discussion of getting into art if you just want to get into it and you don't want to do anything professionally with it. But I think specifically, because we've talked a lot about the commissioning process today, what tough love piece of advice would you give to new artists who are trying to get into commissioned content?
All right. I think I might have addressed some of them earlier. You know, you're going to learn a lot as you go. There are some things working with commissioners that will be somewhat painful as you learn certain stuff, right? Like, for example, learning the hard way that you need to be charging 50/50 because you got ripped off for a project. I think those experiences still are very helpful to have firsthand. I think that sort of handling that in real time, and you know, you don't want to have to go through every bad experience, but just having a few to sort of toughen you up, I think, is very important. When you are starting out, and a lot of these things are things that I've gone through as well. People won't know you. It's going to be hard to find your work. It's hard to get commissions when people don't know you exist, right? And I think that a lot of people have a tendency to sort of charge really low in the beginning to try to get their name out there, or, you know, do free art examples. I've even done some of these things myself. You're going to see a lot of very large artists who it seems like they're filling out their commission slots, you know, within 10 minutes. And it's going to be a trudge, right? It's a lot like content creation. People don't know you exist. They don't know you're streaming. They don't know who you are. They don't know your community. And it takes a long time to get there in the public eye, to the point that people know that you take commissions. People know that you're an artist. It's a long road, and you might think that it goes quicker than in actuality. You might see some people who did like one art piece that caught the attention of someone and blew up, in the same way we see, VTubers who blow up with one clip, right? We have clippers who help on that end. You've sometimes people who like retweet your commission sheets or whatever. But the truth is, it's a really long road, and you're going to have to deal with learning a lot of tough love type situations. You're also not gonna like working with every client. And in the beginning, people are gonna think that they can take advantage of you. You're a newbie, you're not really sure what you're doing. There's a lot of people who think that they can kind of push artists that don't have as big of a following, as gross as that is to say. They know that you don't have any like white knights to attack them on social media or anything. It can be a very long road. And you have to want to work with people. A lot of people become commission artists because they want to make money as an artist, and it is one of the I'd say it's one of the most accessible ways to make money as an artist. I know someone was mentioning before, traditionally you would get known in a gallery, or you'd be working for a company or whatever, but I think that commissioning is an accessible way to make money for artists. It's a very, very long road, I would say. It's hard to get noticed. There's going to be lots of ups and downs. There's going to be lulls in your queue. You might not even have a queue in the beginning. You're just trying to get stuff out there. But if you're serious about it, if you like communicating with people, if you like the idea of bringing their visions to life, then it's something you have to keep at. And that's a lot of the reason that people do fan art in the beginning, right? Is they're just trying to get their name out there easier.
And, just to put that out there, it's a very effective way of getting people to notice you. Cough, cough.
That's true.
Will, cough, cough, Swody. Definitely didn't become my pocket artists because of fan art or anything like that. Definitely not still using Will's fan art as my profile picture.
I mean, I know that even with the bigger agencies, a lot of the artists that they hire were people who were making fan art of them. Like, I know there's one artist who gets a lot of work with Niji Sanji, because beforehand they were basically drawing nothing but people from Niji Sanji.
Yeah, I mean, this really does tie back into a little bit earlier in the stream where we were talking about the like finding a niche and niching down and like choosing where you want your content to go. Is if you like, I would say drawing Niji Sanji members is very specific in terms of like drawing.
It's like people who want to get into like League of Legends, right? They have an entire portfolio of League of Legends, and they know everything about the characters, and they know everything about the game, and it's like that's the direction they want to go. Yeah,
like they will take what could be I mean, I think all the artists that work at Riot are great, but they will take someone who might be a little bit less technically skilled, who just knows everything about all the characters, over someone who is just a intrinsically better artist but isn't as familiar with
it's even in their application form, I think.
I would not be surprised.
Have a question where you have to like write down your username and your level or something. Like, we want people who have played the game, are experienced with the game, know everything about the characters, have an idea of our lore. I think that's like I think for them in comparison, it's pretty intense.
Yeah. Well, like it really just got a I mean, like, I'm gonna use Cozy here because she just spoke about it, but the goth art Cozy fan art that also made by Will is making her change some things for her next model is like, if your art can affect a granted, we're talking creators here, but like if you're focusing on a community, specifically, like I'll use Warrior Cats just because we brought that up early in the stream. Like if you're really good at drawing cats and you want to focus on the Warrior Cats community, you will get people that like will come to you for that specific reason because you drew the thing that they really liked. It's really easy for content creators to like fan art because we're all slightly egotistical. It's okay to admit that. We like seeing cool art about us. Sue me. But if your art is like, if you're really working on it, you got good art, like people do notice that. It's why I've commissioned a lot of people, is because I think about half the artists I've worked with have at some point done a commission or like done fan art of me, and I've like, oh, I liked your style and I know you can draw me. Therefore, me commissioning you is so much less of a risk. And
exactly.
So yeah, it's knowing who your audience is going to be, who the clientele you want to go for.
Yeah, for sure. And also, like, on the fan art side, it can also help, like, direct your style, for example, right? Like, for me, I keep saying that I wanted to move more into that, cuter, more colorful genre. I don't know if I'm going to get a commissioner who wants something like that in the near future. A lot of stuff that I have is actually very action-packed and detailed and very much in a different direction lately. But by doing that fan art, I can kind of communicate, like, this is sort of where I want to go, and here's a little bit of proof that I can go in that direction. I did a few pieces of, like, some of the girls from Hololive, for instance, to sort of just, basically have a show of proof.
Yeah.
So I think that's another good side to fan art, is that you can indicate to people where you want to be.
And also, because it brings up another good point of also the people who made small anime and stuff, sometimes like that just becomes real. I mean, so I don't have it on me at the moment, but that, like, there's a reason why Rayleigh looks the way that she does, is because we were talking about this whole thing on stream like 2 years ago at this point, and someone's like, hey, I drew a fan art based off of the concept that we talked about. And that has heavily shaped what Rayleigh became.
Right.
And so, like, yeah, fan art you could totally make fan art, like, become real and do things for the things you want to. And, like, again, it's just all part of that niching down. Is I think fan art is honestly, like, the easier to do, because something that's popular, and if you're really into that thing, you understand why you like it, you understand why other people like it, and it helps guide where you want your content and your clientele to come from, which I think honestly is one of the hardest parts of like building up a client base, is understanding where that audience is.
I think another thing, like, going back to what you're saying in terms of passion, is, I guess unless you're an artist alley artist and this kind of is your bread and butter, don't do fan art of things just because they're popular. In my personal opinion, I would say do fan art of things that you are actually a fan of. Like, I think every person and their brother is doing fan art of Genshin Impact, whether or not they played the game, right? If you like the character design, that's one thing. You don't have to actually be familiar with the character to make fan art. But don't just be doing this because it's popular. Because people can tell that you don't really have the passion for it. And there's probably something that you would want to be doing more, that with that more niche audience would actually be more effective for you. Because if everybody's doing Genshin, you're not really standing out that much.
Yeah, and by the way, liking, kind of like what you just mentioned, liking it does not necessarily mean like, oh, you play the game. It's like, maybe you just really like the one character, and drawing it, like, that's totally fine. But I think one of the biggest problems is people make fan art of things they don't participate in, says Blink. Yeah, they do. Because whenever you start attaching money or like any of that in to like what you want to do creatively, is your viewpoint on things can and often does change. So if your goal is to get clients, and that is like your overarching goal, you will do what's popular because that will get the most views on your art and get people to potentially commission you. I do, however, think that that way of thinking does not last very long, as someone who used to do that. But, you know, in video form here is if you, that way it does grow you. It does. And I do think on some level, you probably should be doing that. Like every now and then, like do something that you know will be popular. But
it's good in moderation.
The danger is always, you don't want the things that you're doing just because they're popular to become the only things you're known for, because eventually that will tear you down. That's what's scary.
You hit the nail on the head right there. You've absolutely hit the nail on the head.
A lot of people can do what's popular for a long time, but eventually, if it's not what you wanted to be doing in the first place, it's just going to ruin you.
Mm-hmm.
So
for sure.
I'm confused, but then again, I really do fan art in general. The pieces I've done on Raelz remain one of the very few exceptions to this day, and I love them, Blank. They're awesome. But again, like we're specifically talking about this, like looking from like you are trying to get clients, right?
Yeah.
And like this phenomenon is the same as on YouTube. Is if you make something that's popular and you keep making the thing that's popular, even though you're not particularly interested in it. And like you might have started off interested in it, by the way. This can happen to things you love, fun fact, over time anyways. But once, like over time, you will definitely, like, it will start to grate on you. Your work will decline because most people just aren't capable of doing the same monotonous thing over and over and over if they really don't want to anymore.
You can get stuck in a spiral.
Yeah. I mean, hell, that's one of the reasons why I don't really do lore stuff anymore. Is I started off really liking it, not so much anymore. I'm moving away from it. But
yeah,
that's like it's all just a balancing act. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I just would very, very, very caution against, especially if you're just starting out, just trying to go for things that are popular, because if you do start getting client commissions based off of the popular thing, and it's really not what you want to do, you're going to be miserable. Like, this is just coming from experience. You're just going to be miserable. And you're not going to want to do art anymore.
I have heard so many cases of people that just get known for only their fan art. And because they've built it up so much, their personal art just goes nowhere.
Yep. It's like, oh, you draw awesome Genshin characters. Who's this original character you drew? I don't care. Okay, back to the Genshin. You know?
Exactly.
So, it's just rough.
Yeah. But like you said, balance is the key for that.
But I think going back to the original question, I think the most important part of building up your career in basically anything you do is just understanding the sheer volume of time that it takes to build anything. Like even where I'm at right now is a lot of people can like see, you know, boom, this I have 50,000 subs on YouTube. That's by a lot of people's metrics a lot. But this took like the 3 years of being a VTuber plus the 3 other years of not being a VTuber plus the 2 years on Twitch plus another 2 years that are a secret art channel I will never discuss. Plus, you know, like there's like 10 years of stuff just to get to this point. And like even the people that you see blow up overnight, they did not blow up overnight. There's always another story, and it's just recognizing that time is unfortunately necessary. Secret art look, it's dead, guys. The art channel is dead. It's been dead for a long time. I will never tell you what channel that was. If you find it, I will confirm it, but that's it. But you're never gonna find it.
Oh man, you put him on a treasure hunt now.
We need to see. No, it has like 5 videos on it. Mela can't even find out. Mela won't find it. I guarantee you that. But if it's dead, because I don't know, you guys might be able to way back machine some of the abominations on there. I did have an okay, guy. I've said this before. I will. Come on, don't be. I am embarrassed. Look, that part of my life is dead. We've moved on from being artists. We are now just cat full time. Let the what's the Star Wars quote? Let the past die. Kill it if you have to. But yeah, it's just like there's this whole big journey that it takes to get to wherever you are, and so recognizing that it's going to take time is
Absolutely. And things are gonna change. Like you're going to evolve whatever it is you're doing now into something else in the future. Chances are you won't be doing the same thing. Like I was saying that I kept chasing all these art styles to eventually get to what I'm doing now. I wish that I had been more rebellious in art school, you know? Do you know how much time I would have saved if I had just known the thing that I wanted to do and gotten through with it? But a lot of times you have to take all these steps to sort of find what it is that you like. And it can be a long journey. And sometimes you don't even know how you will get to that point. And then even after you've gotten there, it'll keep shifting.
yeah. You know what's funny is I actually was pretty. So I started off as a digital media major back when that was a degree. And for my final project, I made an AMV. And people didn't know. People didn't know. I just remember the teacher's reaction of like, what the hell? What is this? Because it was about Initial D, and I loved it so much, dude. I discovered my Eurobeat passion in college. It was great. No, that doesn't exist anywhere. I can tell you with certainty that video does not exist anywhere. It is well and truly buried. But I also can't show you the originals because I think I use my actual name in them. But
I love those moments in school where you just like you stop caring and you just go a little bit far in making your assignment into that nerdy passion that you know that no one's gonna understand.
yeah.
Just the few times that you just do a few assignments that go just that far.
It's true. Oh, Mela brings up a cursed artwork that, well, it's actually not cursed. I'm actually proud. I have a giant 4-foot poster of that one in my room. Banana Cat. Let's go. But I just totally sidetracked myself. Holy crap. My train of thought just went out the window. What were we I literally just forgot. Holy cow, I have the memory of a goldfish. Tangents are my worst enemy, but they're like my greatest thing.
Was there any other question that you wanted?
Oh,
to
yeah. Well, I was not about to pull up my art channel for you guys. Screw you guys. You will have to find that on your own. Gosh dang it. Oh wait, hold on. We might have a quick emergency I need to take care of. Uh, I need to do some cyber sleuthing real freaking fast to see if a certain thing. All right. Well, you might be judging some of my artwork real fast here because I think someone found it. All right. That was fast.
Way too fast.
How did you find it that fast?
No.
How did someone find this? It was so fast. Hold on. I have to do a quick scrub. Quick scrub.
Oh no.
Oh, okay, we're fine.
Okay.
Oh gosh. What? Hold on. I just realized that I need to change something really quick.
All right.
We're calling an audible real fast. Because I just realized that there was something that was still on a very old post that needs to be removed very quickly. Pretty sure you forgot the No, I don't need to delete the page. I just need to delete a certain post. It's fine. Quick, at least make screenshots. No. You guys don't. No. Oh my gosh. Well, speaking of, okay, this is a great. So, Starlight, how do you deal with people looking into your previous artworks? Have you sanitized your internet presence like I apparently haven't?
I feel like I shouldn't go into that.
Okay, then we will not go into that.
Yeah. Let's just say that art school wants you to go into a different direction than how VTubers typically do.
I can understand that.
Yes.
Because doesn't now I was in art school for a very short amount of time. We'll put it that way. But they want you to attach like your real name to everything, right?
Absolutely everything. Yeah. Yeah.
Which is like, huh?
And the thing is, like, you can be like, okay, I'm not gonna listen to the art school people, and then you go to like industry events, right? And it's the same thing, and they keep pushing that. So it's like, yeah, there's a lot of I've had my fair share of frustration on that end. I feel like nowadays art schools should be a lot more open about people having online screen names that they're usually better known for, frankly, right? Like Loish is a perfect example. Loish is a illustrator who got very big on Instagram, and she is very well known for this sort of like Disney anime type marriage art style. And everyone knows her as Loish. She has her, full real name where she needs to, but she's known for that much more.
I think that's just kind of like a byproduct of the internet just in general. Is like screen names are definitely, I think, just the way the internet will be kind of like going forward, because it just I think it's just why use a real name when you can have a name that's like more intrinsic to your identity. And I understand that like it doesn't work for like people who don't engage outside the internet.
It's a very like fandom sided type thing, I think.
Well, I think it's just good on like good for just internet in general, because like saying that you're like Tom Johnson, unless you got your start as Tom Johnson, right?
Mhm.
Uh, then it just, I don't know, it feels weird to,
Yeah.
for like from an internet perspective, to have that be what you're trying to do.
Yeah. I honestly I used to struggle with it emotionally so much because they really really try to push it in the art field that you really need to be known for your full name, and I just was not comfortable with that for the beginning. Um but they basically act like it's a requirement. So it's kind of hard to break out of that mindset sometimes. I wish that I had um sort of developed my presence a little bit earlier. Like the people who stuck with one DeviantArt account and really knew what they were doing, they will just forever be known by that name. Like I think Uniho and Yoclesh were very big on DeviantArt, and they sort of like cemented that. Or Rasuri is another one. It's sort of like no one ever wonders because they just never really had a side of that.
Yeah. I think Bao is another good example of that.
Yeah.
Um, like she was something different, but like she's always had a screen name, and it's just changing screen name. I don't know. I like the anonymity of a screen name, but also the presence of this of a screen name, right? Like
Yeah.
it makes you something more than just a. I'm gonna say just a person, which sounds really weird, but like maybe it's just because of my time on the internet that I'm just more used to that. Of what's you're not Sarah, you're uh I don't know what your name is, and if I did, I'm not gonna say it. But like, if your name was Sarah, it's like you wouldn't be Sarah to me. You'd still be like, even when I was meeting up with like people at Offkai, right? Is there a few
Mhm.
people who I do know their actual names, but it still feels weird to call them
Yeah.
that. Like, you know, it just I know
It's
you
like
as
it's not how you see them.
yeah.
One thing that I saw somebody saying in chat way back when we were discussing the name thing. One thing I'm like slightly jealous of is you know, people who are able to get like the clean one word name. Like that's something I'm always jealous between like you or Thornscale or anyone, Sapphire. I'm always like, oh, that would have been so easy because I know that someone had said in the chat, you have this whole like Starlight card thing going. Why not just be known for the one name? Um, I was known as Starlight for the longest time, and good luck ever getting that. you know, good luck ever getting that name. So you have to have something that can make it unique. So I had to kind of add something at the end. And luckily, with VTubers, there is more of a familiarity with having a full VTuber name than there is with like in the art community. The one word name is kind of this quick, snappy thing. Like I was saying, Yoclesh, for example.
Right. It's so fascinating because I've gone back many times about having one name versus two names. I do ultimately think I agree. Like if you can have just a singular name that is
It's
more
OP.
impactful
Yeah.
than two, because I kind of believe in the philosophy of life of if you have a name that can be shortened to something or can become a nickname, it will. Like, because
Yeah.
people just don't want to say your whole name. They just don't. But like one word names, I don't know. I just think I personally prefer them more, but some
They're
people
definitely powerful. I've gone by Starlight too long and I wasn't about to change that. It's something I very personally identify with at this point. So I was I wasn't going to change that, but that obviously means that you can't have the one-word name either.
Yeah, it's I do think there are some exceptions to that rule though, where like there are some people who have managed to make two names just sound so authoritative, like Tom Scott, right?
Mm.
Like that's never you can't.
Sometimes it doesn't even register in your head as being two.
Yeah, I mean, it's the whole theory behind naming stuff is just so fascinating.
Yeah, for sure.
And like what it can provoke in people, but one word names seem hard to come up with. You know, there was a time where I would have agreed with you, but I also think that like there's also just so much stuff that you can do with like a name, and it can come from the most random places. I mean, my name is literally a bastardization of the word realize. Like, it's literally just saying realize faster and with a different inflection. That is the whole story behind my name. I don't even remember why I chose that.
Sapphire kind of has a similar case to that.
Yeah, it's like, but like sometimes that's just what ends up sticking and becoming iconic. Like, would I have thought that Raelz was gonna be my name forever? No. Is it what I kind of like how you identify with Starlight? It's like, is it going to be stuck like this for the rest of the time? Yeah, probably. Like that is my name forever. Just it is.
It's a very good one.
After 3 hours of stream, I hope you remember to drink some water. I have been drinking water. Thank you, villager. Though we are getting to a point where we'll probably want to start winding down because I don't want to keep you here all day. But I think we've gone over a lot of really good stuff. And I will now open the floor while we finish talking about some stuff to people in chat who want to ask any questions to you. They can. I'll start a Q&A for it.
Alrighty.
There we go. I probably should have had that open this whole time, but I didn't think about that because I was getting distracted by our discussion. But I think that's a good thing to get distracted by.
Yeah, this has honestly been like really, really fun so far. I was nervous that I would be more nervous than I am, so that's a good thing.
Well, I'm glad that we've broken through the nervousness, at least in part. Okay, let's see here. See here. I guess we're gonna start off with a funny question. This is kind of funny. From good old Sea Hero.
Oh no.
Is mayonnaise considered to be an art?
I guess it depends on how you use it. I mean, if it's an alternative to acrylic paint, I suppose there could be. I don't understand modern contemporary art. I'm gonna be real. But I could see it in that direction in some form.
Fair. So I just had to start with a weird question. Okay, we got another question from Will. Any features on your character design that you're really proud of or want to point out? Good question.
Oh, that's a good one. So, I do have this sort of like, illusory demi-human form, but my main one for the longest time has been sort of this anthro fox, and I still find myself going back and forth. I identify with both. One thing that I am actually fairly happy with is sort of the rainbow ears design, and it works the same way for the furry fandom that it does for VTubing, right? There's sort of this general character design idea in VTubing that the most important part should be bust up, right? Like everything above the bust. And I feel like the rainbow ears are a very good, quick symbol where it's one of those things where if someone is quickly drawing you art, like I've seen people explain it like can a kid draw your design and is it still recognized as you? And I feel like, you know, as long as a kid could use like a rainbow, you know, a bunch of crayons or whatever, if they can at least just get the rainbow ears, I feel like that's sort of the most signifying part of my design. And of course the forehead star, but in terms of like quick recognizability, I would say.
I think you are also the only VTuber that I am aware of that has rainbow ears in the in the style that you have them in. Which
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a
is
lot of people sort of do different takes on them. I've actually had someone approach me and be like, "Oh, I love the rainbow design in your ears. Can I use that for myself?" And I don't want to try to gatekeep too much, but I actually told them that's kind of the one main signifying thing in my design. So I kind of appreciate just keeping that for myself. I mean, there's gonna be people down the road who will have never heard of me who will be doing it themselves anyway, and I don't mind. Um,
yeah, but I I mean I'd say the same thing if like someone's like, "Can I use your cloak?" No. Like
yeah.
my model's a little bit more extreme than yours, but like the cloak is literally the only thing that is a character defining thing about the cat. Like, it's the
Exactly,
only
yeah.
thing. And so if you want your one thing, it's like it's okay. Like
Yeah, I think it's
I think that it's fine to gatekeep when it comes to that. So
people are saying they didn't know that it was rainbow. I feel like I have to improve that.
I just think OBS Ninja makes it a little bit harder to see. And I think the green screen might be messing with the colors a little bit.
Oh, that could be it. No. I've actually I've been thinking anyway though that I do want to intensify the visual of it though, because if I do want to focus on sort of this rainbow art, prismatic design, everything, I do feel like I should be pushing it more so that it is more apparent to people.
I could see that, yeah. Um, okay, here's a question from Nick. What's the future for Starlight as an artist? Will Starlight continue the path of being a creator for creators type of artist, or will Starlight do her own thing?
Oh,
Good
that's a
question.
really good question. That is actually something that I've been debating with myself a lot very recently, actually. I've sort of gone through a little bit of like spiritual art journey, let's call it, where I've sort of been revisiting a lot of like I was saying with the brand, how you want to be known, how you want to represent yourself.
Hmm.
I do feel like at the moment, most people know me as either a commission artist or an asset artist. That's the main thing that I've been focusing on, the main thing I've been pushing to my socials and everything. My goal for next year is to be pushing a lot more on the personal side. It's actually tricky for me because I've been doing so many things related to commissions and assets that it's somewhat hard for me to figure out how to go back to drawing what I want to be drawing for myself, right? But that is definitely a goal. I want to shift things in a way that um, I'm doing a little bit less commission work and a little bit more personal art, but I never see myself eliminating the commission work entirely. I enjoy working with people too much. My whole idea of being a wish granter very much falls in line with wanting to bring people's visions to life. So I do want to start getting more known for my own things, but I don't think I'm ever going to drop commissions entirely.
I think that's a pretty healthy stance to take, honestly.
My percentage has been so bad this year. I calculated it and I think I've done 5 pieces this year that were just like for myself on my own time that weren't either commissions or assets, and 3 of those were Hololive fan art. So my ratio is pretty bad, and I think I need to start balancing that out better.
I know the feel. I've also had a terrible ratio of stuff this year. So I understand the feeling, that's for sure. Villager asks, not his usual question, thankfully, but would like to know, what's your opinion of drawing on paper?
Interesting, because like most of what we do is digital.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if that's like from a general point of view or from a VTubing point of view, because VTubers are fairly tied into a digital space. You know, you can have hand cams or whatever, but that's a conscious decision. In terms of just working on paper, I find that I probably need to be doing it more. I probably need to get back to working more traditionally. I tend to be more drawn to digital because of how fast I can drop down color. And I think that color is something that I'm really trying to focus more on. And also, a lot of digital techniques, a lot of texture work with brushes and such is something I'm experimenting more with. Paper is good for when you just need to do like loose sketches, for me anyway. I think there's still people who are doing traditional commissions. But I should probably be sketching traditionally more than I do now.
I unfortunately don't have too much to say about that because I don't even sketch. I always sketch when I need to have some random art done for me.
My earliest commissions were primarily traditional because a lot of what I did was well, the earliest were all traditional because I didn't even do digital back then. But when I started doing more commissions in general, a lot of it was for the furry community, and they are very big on convention badges. And there's kind of a sense that they really like the physical traditional convention badges. So I had like, you know, big set of Copic markers, lots with Prismacolors, pens that had like glitter effects, all that kind of fun stuff. And that was probably the majority of what I was doing at the time.
You know, I was recently introduced to how many people are like into the badge, like the physical badge art design at Offkai. I was not. It was like a big thing there, and I was like, am I out of? But like, it's kind of, yeah.
That's cool to know.
Like, so their specific thing was ribbons, and like the ribbon designs. But like, still, it was the whole.
Isn't it?
Yeah, I was like, what is a ribbon con? And they're like, how old are you?
I heard that recently, and I'm not at all familiar with the idea, but I've seen people talking about it in passing, and I'm like, is this what happens when I don't go to conventions for years? I just lose track of what the standard is now.
Apparently, I mean, it was kind of a culture shock for me to be like, I saw someone walking around with like 50 ribbons. It was just like, what's going on here? I don't understand. Where are all these ribbons coming from? I don't get it. I don't get it. Oh gosh.
That's interesting. I wonder if traditional badges will be a thing in the VTuber space, in the same way that they are for furries, because the point of a badge in the furry fandom is to connect that online persona with with you in person very quickly, very easily. So I wonder if that would be a thing, and if it is, I'm going to keep saying that it came from the furry fandom.
Hey, you know what? It probably did.
I like making those connections because it sometimes freaks people out and it's funny to me. And I'm like,
Yeah,
oh yeah, there's a huge amount of mirroring going on there, whether you like it or not.
it's true. It's true. We got a good question from Angara. What is the obvious red flag for either the commissioner or the artist? Is there any telltale, or is it just experience?
Ooh. It's a good one.
I can answer this on my end. If I am commissioning you for a very large project, and okay, so actually, if I'm reaching out to you saying, "Hey, can you do this thing?" and you immediately reply with, "Do you have an example?" and like you before I've even like fully gone over the project or like even described it to you, you already want a bunch of references for something that I haven't finished describing.
Can you elaborate on that a bit? Now I'm curious.
So, back when I was getting one of these, like talking to a person, uh, this was a scam, like 100%. I was like, "Hey, I like your art. Are you comfortable doing, this?" Or well, what I thought was their art. I, said, "Hey, are you comfortable trying to do this thing?" And they were like, "Sure. Can you give me a picture of what you want?" And I was like, but like when I said this thing, elaborate that into like a 3-paragraph explanation of what said thing is. So it wasn't just be like, "Can you draw a cat?" Like I wasn't vague. I was like, "Okay, I want," because this was specifically for a King cover at the time, like which has a very specific sort of look, right?
Yes. Yes.
And I included the reference for the actual like King YouTube thumbnail, right? And they were still like, "Okay, can you show me a picture of what you're talking about?" And I'm like, what did you not read the 3 paragraphs that I sent beforehand?
I already sent the thing.
Like, I like the very descriptive nature. Like it's always weird to me when like if I'm being vague, yes, you can ask for clarity. Like you should ask for clarity. But if I give you a detailed explanation and your first response is, "Can you show me what you want?" without like, and it was a super fast response, like immediately.
Yeah.
Like you clearly did not take the time to look at what I sent you. That's a word. That's like a, maybe they just were a very visual artist, maybe, but no one reads a like 3 paragraphs of text and responds within a minute.
I feel like if that was a scam, I feel like that would have been the case where they might have just like traced over the thing that they wanted and then just like did it in their style.
Oh, that's what they ended up doing, by the way.
There you go.
So I didn't pay for that, but that's what they ended up trying to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I think those people are better when they have like, pet photos and then it's just the pet photo drawn over.
Yeah.
Not that it's good when I say better, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think the red flag on my end, or like on the artist end, we have a lot of scammers going around on places like Instagram. This is definitely a big one. If they come to me with a budget and or they say something like I want whatever is your most expensive piece, or they send a photo very generically. It's usually I want a picture of my kid, maybe dressed as Superman or something, or I want a picture of my pet, and then they immediately, like without any hesitation, want the most expensive thing you offer for it, because that is pure scamming. That is just, I want to do like money problems and try to get all the payment from you, PayPal annoyances. But that's been very prevalent lately.
Yeah. Actually, I just thought of another really bad red flag. Is if you do not tell me your prices immediately. Like if I have to fight you to figure out how much you cost, you are intentionally trying to obfuscate that.
Now, I will put a tiny bit of a caveat there because if you're just working with like some new artist who doesn't really have themselves very established, they should have a general price idea. The
Yeah.
more professional you get, the less you tend to rely on a standard commission sheet, the more that you can kind of demand based on you have to email me your specifics and then I will quote you based on whatever amount fits this project. You can get
Yeah,
away
yeah,
with
yeah,
that
yeah.
when you are more established, but if people are doing that in the beginning, yeah, that's not usually the greatest. Unless they were taught to do that by someone.
I think
Which is very possible.
the difference here is specific. I can remember on 2 separate occasions this has happened to me. Is if I message you saying I would like this thing done, and then you respond with "What's your budget?" That is
Yeah.
the most that is my single biggest red flag of like,
Yeah.
what do you mean? What is my budget?
It's funny because it's kind of the reverse of what I was saying, because on our end, it's like, what is the most expensive thing you offer?
Yeah, it's just a weird, like, in either direction. It just sounds like you're just trying to get the most out of the other person without getting like it's weird. It feels weird. Like,
Yeah.
I'm asking how much you charge for the thing that I describe. Like, for a lot of artists, like I think even Will did this, is like I described what I wanted and then they told me how much it would cost.
Mhm.
That's fine. But like, it would have felt weird if I described what I wanted and they said, "Okay, what's your budget?" Like,
Yeah, because they should have
just straight up right there.
generally a better idea of how it
Yeah,
aligns. Yeah. Yeah.
that's the
That
weird.
I would say is a red flag.
Yeah, now like I think budget can be like definitely can be discussed, especially like if a model's concerned. Is like, okay,
Oh yeah.
if each expression is this much, is like, how much of these are you wanting to add? Which is like a similar phrasing of the "what's your budget" question, but it's way less like red flaggy,
Yeah.
you know. So that's just something I wanted to. That's easily my biggest like. We're not gonna work together well.
I think on both sides, the biggest red flag is based on how are you planning to pay for this, essentially. You know, are you trying to milk the client for all they're worth? Are you trying to, you know, PayPal charge back the artist for the most you can get? It's kind of on the same wavelength.
I think that's where it really comes down to, is if the first thing that is like, if the most important thing is the monetary value or the money behind a project, that's probably a bad sign,
Yep. Yeah.
because I should be commissioning you because I want the idea to come to life. And if you end up being like too expensive for me at the time, what, like, that's something that will just happen, right? But like, the whole point of the discourse was about the idea. If it's changed to just be about the money and like how much is it going to cost, and like that's the super big pressing concern, it's probably going to be a bad time for both you and for the person you're commissioning, because you're probably going to be a nightmare.
100%.
Yeah. So just keep that in mind. All right, we'll do a couple more here. Zatham asked, earlier question I had, any forms of communication you despise, like people typing like this in all caps, or with the first letter capitalized, or people typing one word and hitting enter without making a full sentence paragraph as examples. I am definitely guilty of that latter one. But
Yeah, I would have to say the latter personally is not something I'm a fan of. If I'm trying to communicate with you and we're both online at the same time and you are writing like line by line by line and there's only a few words, I don't know when you're stopping. So I can't reply to you well, and sometimes I'll end up interrupting you because I don't know that you're still typing or getting your thoughts down. So I'm very much a fan of like get all your thoughts in one place first. And on that note, more on an art-related thing, or just general content creator, don't start a message with hi. Say the whole thing that you need.
Yeah, hi or hey, how are you doing?
How are you doing? You don't actually care how we're doing. You just want to get to the thing. So just start with it.
You can start with hi, how you're doing, and then have the rest of the message with it, but don't just
just like condense this all into one message, please.
Yeah. But good to know that you don't like the one line spammers, because I think that's the exclusive way I've communicated with you, except for spamming. No, I was just scrolling up. It's like, yep, I am a one line spammer. Let's go, boys.
No, you're not. No, I'm looking here and I don't see it.
Okay, well, with the exception of the two posted questions, I did.
No, what I don't like is if I'm talking to somebody and then I'll like step away from 10 minutes and then it says you have 30 new messages and it's not that they're like full messages.
I'm not quite that bad. That is egregious.
I know some people who do that.
I'm okay, actually that's not true. I've done that to friends before. But okay, yeah, I'm looking at some of my messages with Cozy where I just spammed like 10 lines of random crap before I actually said what I wanted to say. It's okay. She does it back. It's fine. But I just thought that was a funny question. Okay. Ooh, here's a good question from Savruin. When we were discussing the commissions part, I had a question that what if we draw something that we don't, whoops, my thing collapsed, but we don't want, but not posting, wait, hold on, let me make sure I'm reading this right. Mint, thank you for the super chat. Also,
Mint, hello.
Wait, why am I your victim? Hold on. I saw you in Fulger's chat earlier. I know what you did. Anyways, when we were discussing the commissions part, I had a question. What if when we draw something that we don't want, but not posting in your portfolio for keeping a theme you liked? Is the question to just...
I think, is the question like, is that okay to do?
Yeah, if you don't want to include something in your portfolio, you don't need to? Or is it if you did some commission work that you don't want to be representative of your overall body of work, you don't have to add that to your portfolio if you don't want to. Your portfolio should really only be like what, in my opinion, your portfolio should, like, what you advertise with is what you should want your commissions to, like, what kind of commissions you want to receive. So like, yeah, you might do off work that like isn't part of what you want to be doing all the time, because I'm sure that you'll have other, I mean, it's like we were talking about earlier, you'll do commissions that are like a little bit outside of your comfort zone. You're outside of, you know, what you'll usually like to do. But like, you don't have to include those on your advertising posts if you don't want to.
Yeah.
So
I would say like on sort of, you know, both sides in that. Like if you host your work on a website, I would say you can have kind of your main portfolio, that is what you want to communicate. Your art examples can be the thing you want to communicate. You might have a separate tab that's like, you know, past commissions I've done. And you don't have to be posting your commissions on social media, but I think that a lot of clients like seeing their art on your social media.
yeah.
But you can post their work without establishing it as something that you want to be known for if all of the other things are stronger.
Yeah. I'd say that's a fair statement. I'd say that's fair. Here's okay, so this wasn't actually in the Q&A. I saw it earlier and I wrote it down. But Torblitz Media, or Tro Bear It's Media, I think I said that right. Asked the question of what sites would you begin posting commission work or wanting to do commissions with? For like where's your best place to get started if you're wanting to get into commission work?
It kind of goes back to what we were saying in terms of like, finding like-minded communities. For me, most of the work that I get is through Discord, through engaging with various VTuber communities. I would say that there's a lot of people point to Reddit in terms of like very, very specific areas, very niche communities. You might be posting like subreddits dedicated to Dungeons and Dragons, for example. You might want to be a D&D artist. Um,
And those people
on
will
the
commission you, let me tell you.
On the VTuber side, I know that there's more artists being accepted into VGen. It is, I believe it is still in like sort of a closed beta portion right now, but that's definitely an area where it's like if you like working with VTubers, then that's definitely a place you could be posting. It's pretty I'd say it's pretty saturated because I think a lot of people were looking for something like that, and now that it's out, a lot of people are jumping to it, so it's easier to get drowned out in that area.
Yep.
But definitely more niche communities. Like, I would not start advertising your commissions by going into like some official Niji Sanji Discord, right? I would really try narrowing down to that area that you specifically like. I mean, post your fan art in a Niji Sanji Discord, and then if someone asks, then you can say you do commissions, but don't just start, advertising in there.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I would say like-minded Discord communities, Reddit communities. You really just want to narrow down, basically, is the main thing. And it is hard to get started. A lot of the websites kind of keep changing, right? A lot of people used to get commissions through Instagram. Now it's harder to get seen on Instagram. So you sort of have to keep jumping around and experimenting as well.
Yeah. And from the commissioner side of things, I know this might be a little controversial. I would actually recommend Fiverr as like a first try at commissioning things. Not because I think Fiverr is the best. In fact, I actually think in terms of quality, Fiverr is pretty mediocre, if not bad. You can find good people. I have found good people. Other people I know have
There are
found good
people who get
people.
their start through it.
But like what I think working with Fiverr for like an initial go teaches you is actually really really useful because like it gets you used to treating the art as like not only just a transaction for getting what you want but how to be a little bit more professional about it because Fiverr doesn't let you just commission people. Like you can't just say hey I want this. It's like usually for any artist who's been on there for a while it makes you fill out a form, it makes you describe what you want. It walks you through the steps, and I think that's a good first, like, kind of step-by-step method of commissioning someone. And there's a lot of cheap people on Fiverr that you can do that with. You
Yeah.
could also
I mean,
take,
there is something to be said of like marketplace websites, right?
yeah,
Where
like,
you can kind of search around and the third party can kind of make sure that the artist is delivering. I know some people do commissions through Etsy the same way.
yeah, I I would personally recommend doing like if you're just starting off and you really want to like you can find some great artists on those marketplace sites and it's generally going to be a more safe experience for you as a first time commissioner. You will eventually get burned, like it's just gonna happen, but
Yeah.
it is a nice way to like get introduced to the process because once you do it once then it gets basically every time you commission something you get a little bit better, you have a little bit more details, you are better at communicating, which again as I think we've quite clearly shown is the that's usually when problems happen is the communication between an artist and the commissioner breaks down.
Yeah.
And
And
so
I would
just
say like, yeah, on the art side, it makes the artist have a bit more responsibility. I know there's a lot of artists who do all their commissions started off just through something like Twitter. There's nothing to really hold them accountable.
And yeah, I mean, I've had artists, many artists. I mean, the one we talked about earlier, who I got into a mini PayPal fight with, right? Like that was through Twitter.
Yeah.
Like we still had the invoices and stuff like we mentioned, so I was able to fight it on Twitter, but that was through Twitter. If that had been through a marketplace, like the threat is, oh, the marketplace will kick you off. Right. So it's just a little, but like you can do a lot of research and like a lot of looking into the person, into their past clients. I know I've reached out to previous clients of artists I've worked with before, being like, hey, did they actually do this for you? And because surprise, surprise, if you've been the recipient of a not great artist, like your clients will talk about you. Because I do. I have no hesitation spreading bad actors. But like the reverse is also true. I feel like
that's fair, You have a reputation to uphold.
Yeah, Sovereign, you said it right. Is like the more free market a site is, it's just the more risk that is incurred on both sides. And so that's why I personally recommend doing sites that are a little bit more structured. You're not... the downside is you won't be able to have as much freedom with your commission as you would, because things are more structured. But like on the flip side, if you're just starting out, it does teach you how to kind of get started. And that's what I would personally recommend.
I would also say that like if an artist has a website that they also communicate on, like outside of Twitter or Fiverr or Etsy or whatever, I feel like that generally creates a sense of being more professional. I'm not talking about like, a free name.wix.com site. I'm saying if they've invested into something where they have to pay for the domain name and the hosting or whatever, they are probably generally taking things more seriously as a business and have probably been through more. Not to say that you can't do very well with like, your card site. I just find that when the artist has invested into things, they generally don't want to do anything that is going to ruin that.
Yeah. I'd say that's fair. I think we'll do one more question before we round it off here. And it's from C Hero, and I think it's a pretty... We covered on this a little bit when we were talking about like the do's and don'ts, but serious question. Do you think there's a boundary where... where there are some things that artists should not draw? I'm not sure if you're in the know, but there was something that happened. So I don't know anything about that. But as far as the boundaries, I think that is 100% entirely up to the artist. And I don't think the commissioner can or should have a say in that. Like
you can't force an artist to draw something for you.
And you shouldn't try to force them.
Yeah.
Like going back to the do's and the don'ts that we were talking about earlier, like I didn't message those artists asking if they could draw or like make me a male VTuber, because in their own terms, like they said that no, they do not do that. So it is not up to me to try and convince them to do something that they say they don't want to do. As a commissioner, you just need to respect what your artists have already said. Now, like there is always wiggle room, but that comes with the ever so important word of the day, communication. Is if the artist says, I'm uncomfortable doing this, you should back off. An artist should be completely confident and not afraid to say, no, I don't want to do this. At the end of the day, my personal view of art is a luxury like item that is being created. It is not a necessity for anyone's life, and especially you shouldn't be harassing someone over I'm gonna be so generic here, over a pretty picture that you want from the internet. Like, no, you need to respect their craft, their time, them as a person. If they say no, back off. Like, it's just, you're buying what many consider a luxury item. It's not you shouldn't be able to degrade or like get people to go against their own wants and wishes just because you want something. It
Right.
infuriates me.
Like, asking an artist to do something that they're not comfortable doing, what are you really going to accomplish? I mean, even just from the personal side of not wanting to work with somebody or making somebody angry, or straight up just, let's say you do pressure them to do the work for you. You can tell when someone hasn't enjoyed drawing something. It shows up in the work. The quality will not be where you want it. So why bother?
That's the thing I just don't. Okay, I've said this on stream many times, because I think this isn't just an art thing. I think this is an everything thing. Is if someone is not enjoying what they're doing, you can tell. You can always tell. It's why would you want to pay for something subpar? Because like you clearly care about it if you're the one who asked about it. So why not find the person who also likes it or wants to do that thing? Like why?
Trust me, they are out there. Whatever it is, they exist.
It just that bothers me. Is like, as much as it bothers me to not be able to find artists to do what I want, I'm also not going to pressure you into doing the thing that you don't want to do. I think it's always fair to, if you want to ask, you're allowed to ask, but be polite, be respectful about it. And if the second they say no, just drop it. Like, you don't, or like if again, it's just all about communication. But if I just don't understand what you're trying to get accomplished. If you're going in with like, I want to get this artist to do something they say they don't want to do, like what is the end goal? I don't get it. I don't get it.
Unless you're just trying to like, farm Twitter drama or something, there's no point in it.
I don't care if they're the best artist for this one thing. They're not going to be the best artist for the thing that you want if they don't want to do it, right? Is this about football, soccer thing on Twitter? I don't know. I have no idea what happened on Twitter. I just thought the boundaries question was a good one. Yeah. I just think boundaries are, as far as like what an artist should or shouldn't draw, like that's kind of up to your own morals and ethics. But I also just kind of believe in like, if you don't like artists who draw, let's say porn, for example, you can just not commission them. You can just ignore them. Like, you can just not interact and live your life.
Exactly.
It's just because, especially in the terms of like getting seen and stuff, the absolute worst thing you can do to someone is just not interact with it, because then it doesn't get spread around. You don't make, like, it's just, I don't know. It just, you can just not interact with it. I don't understand why people just don't interact with things that make them upset. Like, it's...
That is just the universal question in all areas of life at this point.
You're just gonna get mad, and that doesn't help any. It's just dumb. I have very strong opinions about that, as you may or may not be able to tell, but I just think people are dumb, and they do things that make themselves angry and push boundaries when they shouldn't and don't need to. It's just weird. It's just weird. All right. But now, as the final question, I've pulled out one drawing from my archive of back in the day of Bananian, because Bananian is awesome. This is unironically a 4-foot long poster on my wall right now. Starlight, do I have what it takes to be awesome at art?
Absolutely. This is actually really adorable.
Hell yeah.
You would do very well in like the convention scene. This would fit right into it.
You know what's actually, there's actually a funny story behind getting this printed as a poster. I had to sign a waiver. Pixar didn't have, okay, you know what? Oh wait, no, I can't. Okay, hold on. I'm about to freeze up for a second. I'm gonna freeze up for a second.
Oh boy.
Okay, you guys want an actual picture? I'm not lying to you. I have to be very careful with what else I show here. Okay. Oh wait, no, I can't show that. Okay, there we go. Different picture. Okay, I have taken a picture. Raelz art stream win? Never. Never, never. Look, sometimes you just gotta prove that you actually do have a thing. This one? Yeah. Okay. Are you guys ready for the actual proof that I have a giant poster of Banana on my wall? It's been there for years. Say hello. Oh, I almost just deleted it. That would have been bad. That would have been tragic. There we go. Okay. Say hello to the Banana wall. I considered getting 2 of these, but wait, where did that save to? Uh-oh. Oh, we got a rogue picture on the hard drive now. We're never gonna find it. Okay. I think I found it. But here you go. Here's the actual proof. Oh god, it's so big. Okay, well there you go. There's Banana sitting next to one of my sound panels. Well, technically he's behind one of the sound panels in the corner of the room.
Now, my question is, why did you decide on 4 feet?
Because okay, so you actually can't even see the rest of the poster. It's so freaking big. It's so big.
I can see both tacks. I can see the ending.
For context, that sound panel that's about 1/4 of the sound panel, and the sound panel is also 3 feet across. So it's big.
I don't think I've ever printed my art 4
But
feet.
the story behind it is I was printing some artwork from a certain fandom, which will not be named, and I saw a deal. It's like you could get a 4-foot poster for like $20, and I was like, why not? So I did. I printed it, and so I have a giant poster of Banana on my wall, and I have a slightly smaller poster of another thing on my wall. And yeah, but the funny thing is they recognized Banana as a licensed character. I'm like, who the hell in the US knows about Banana? Like, this is not a US thing. Who knows about this? And so I had to, this is from Walgreens, by the way. They made me sign this big old like document that says I was printing this for personal use only. This was not going to be used in a commercial capacity because it was a painting of Banana. And I was like, that is really funny. Whereas,
if you ever go further into this and you need to print more copies, you can go to Cat Print. They support cats. It all fits. That's where a lot of Artist Alley people go. It would work very well, and it would fit within your theme.
You're using it on stream. Oh crap! It's in a commercial capacity. We gotta hide it, boys. Okay, but yeah, that's the story behind Banana, and there you go. That's my. This is the glorious type of content you got back on my art channel. It's beautiful. It's magnificent. I absolutely love this stupid picture. I don't know why. It's so good. But no, the only cringe one that I will put out this challenge to you, chat. If I ever hit, I'm gonna set a big number, 1,000 members on this channel, I will reveal the unironically painted brony art that I have done. Because that is a thing that exists. I have painted things. Not NSFW. Get out. I know you're still here. Get out of the gutter. But I have made artwork that is glorious and terrible that I will reveal at that arbitrary number that we will never get to. So get wrecked. But anyways, going back to the topic of the stream. Thank you so much for joining me, Starlight. It's been an absolute blast. I've wanted to talk about art stuff in VTubing for a long, long time. But thank you so much for joining. And everyone here should go check out their channel. You can literally just click on her name in the YouTube title, or in the pinned comment, either one. Like, you can go right to her. You can go right now. I know she's about to be at 500 subs. Oh, she's passed. We did it. We did it. We got her past 500. Okay, good.
Wait, seriously?
You were at 490 before the stream. I checked beforehand. We did it, boys. Let's go. Go sub more.
Oh.
But yes, thank you. Thank you so much for joining. I really, really appreciate that.
No, this has honestly been a ton of fun. I really like talking to you about these topics. I feel like we have a lot of the same wavelengths with these. I really love hearing things from more on the client point of view, because I feel like artists rarely get to hear that side as well. So this has been a ton of fun, honestly.
Well, that's the real reason why I wanted to do this. Is I just feel like we on both sides of the fence, we have our pre-built conceptions, and like, we know what our experience is like, and there's just not like, there's a ton of videos talking about the commissioner side of things. There's a ton of videos talking about the artist side of things. There's really not that many where they're sitting in the same room talking about the same thing and giving both viewpoints at the same time, right? Like, I really wanted that, and I'm so happy that you agreed to come on and talk about that.
Yeah, 100%. And it goes back into sort of like this main overarching theme of the stream, communication.
I did not expect that to become the overarching theme, but it did.
It works. It works. But,
all right.
Yeah, this has been a ton of fun. I'm very grateful to your community, and I enjoyed this very much.
Well, we definitely enjoyed having you, which is why we're going to send you off to another person doing art. Good old Mia is drawing her viewers as slimes, I think. I'm not really sure. She's doing something art related. So we're going to send you over there. Go tell Mia we said hi. And we will all catch you all so much later. Bye-bye.